My guest tonight is a professional anime industry animator. Having gotten his first official credit with One Piece episode 971 back in April 2021, he continued working on episodes through the Wano arc and has also had his work on the show featured on the official Toei Animation Twitter account. Among his other noteworthy credits include animation for makeine and frieren, and also shadow corrections on a McDonald's CM for a limited time Evangelion burger. As recently as this year, he worked on Dragon Ball Daimos episode 13, 2 episodes of Solo Leveling season 2, and his work has already been featured in the initial episode of the upcoming Fate Strange Fake. When he isn't working as a key animator on mainstream anime industry work, his efforts can be seen in the directing and storyboarding for installments of the Oto-chan series, for Season 2's first and second CMs, or in his writing both on Sakuga Blog's 2024 Animation Awards post and elsewhere. To quote Kaven from Sakuga Blog, he's, quote, smart enough to do basically anything, unquote, and is someone whose input and perspective I have come to greatly admire, and it is my privilege to introduce Aaron Rodriguez. Aaron, I know that you are incredibly busy. I wanted to thank you very much for spending this time with me.
Oh, wow. Hi, hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for inviting me, actually.
Yeah.
I would like to first clarify that Kevin is lying. I did try to learn to code. As you can see, I'm still an animator.
Look, whatever code you can write, it's obviously much better code than I could ever do. So you're already leagues ahead of me on that front anyway, too.
We shall find out if I ever try to actually code something. Hi. So yeah, that was an introduction of myself. I promise I did not write it.
Yeah. I had to run this. I had to run this by you first, just to make sure that it was all accurate, and also like I snuck in the thing about the Evangelion burger because I know you probably would have just rolled your eyes at that. But
yeah, that's it would have caught me completely off guard because I don't think about it that much.
No, yeah.
Just in case for anyone hearing, shadow corrections does not mean that I like corrected it from the shadows like a mastermind. It means that I fixed the shading of some CGI models so that they would look like 2D animation proper.
Now I just imagine like you sitting in a dark room, literally just like typing out some like mad genius thing, just manipulating some cabal from the shadows. Though
I wish I could claim to have thought of that ad, but
no.
I cannot shitpost that hard of my own volition.
You're already an accomplished shitposter anyway. But so before we actually get started with this interview proper, one thing that I do want to clarify up front is that some things about Aaron's work we will not be allowed to talk about because that's protected by a non-disclosure agreement or because of other circumstances that he respectfully does not want me to touch upon. So I apologize in advance if I don't ask a question that you're interested in, but I'm not in the business of making Aaron blacklist himself.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, to be honest, most things are like free. It's just, usual good industry practices, like, you don't like name drop like random people when it comes to like talking negatively, that sort of stuff. It's like not good. Not that I have much to do in that regard, but
Yeah.
you don't want to be doing that randomly.
No, absolutely not. But I guess then the very first and I suppose obvious question would be, how exactly did you get started in the industry? Because it's not as though you just randomly decided you were going to be an animator and then your Twitter DMs just started lighting up.
I mean, there were some steps between those two things,
Yeah.
but the decision itself came about that way. So I've always liked drawing in the way a child likes drawing. Like when I was, in school, and I'm talking like primary school stuff, I would just like sketch Goku repeatedly. That was like the one. That was the one thing, repeatedly, not well, mind you, but I did a lot, and I spent a lot of time doing that, and it came to this point where like my attention has never been the best, so I kept drawing. Just like to listen to it actually helped me listen to the stuff that was being like taught and stuff. So I came to like drawing quite a bit, and I started doing it, and I got pretty good at it in the same way like Fujino is pretty good in like in the start of Look Back. But when I got to college, I thought I wanted to do like concept art for games and stuff. I got into games. I got into game dev. And then I just kind of like realized that was not where I wanted to go, mostly because of the industry in my country. And like I at the time I didn't see like much future in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I started drawing in class. Like, well, I always had drawing in class, but I started doing it like with more intent. I downloaded Pencil 2D and Adobe Animate, eventually graduated to Clip, and I was just like screwing around, posting my stuff online. And by the end of the degree, I was kind of like mentally checked out, but I was locked in when it came to animation. And I eventually got a DM in Twitter, which is how most of these things happen. Haha. We're doing from a production assistant from Piero, who offered me a Boruto scene. And I don't know if it's because I took until next day to respond or what happened, but you know, even though I said yes, I got ghosted. And
oh, what if?
I mean, to be honest, that was like the best thing that could have happened to me because I was not ready to do anime work when that happened. Like, what I would learn over the next few months would put me in a level where, like, me starting was not considered an act of terrorism.
So by actually getting ghosted, you essentially dodged a major bullet in your own artistic development.
That kind of saved me in some ways, yeah. But yeah, I didn't do Boruto. Waited a few months, and it's April 2021. Was like when I started working after an offer from a production assistant from Toei, where I worked in One Piece episode 971, which was a very good starting point also because it was like the episode uses like a visual language that I like and that I was used to. So it was like a relatively smooth early experience.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you say a visual language that you like, what does an animator does that mean to you when it comes to creating your own work?
So, I mean, visual language is like a very broad idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the way it goes is, in this case, you get you get a storyboard when you work in any given episode, and the storyboards can be pretty rough in TV animation, and this may come up later in the interview. But so you have to like be able to read the storyboard, which is first of all in Japanese, so you're gonna get like a pretty rudimentary translation usually, if you get one and don't have to use the phone. and you know, there's like a lot of like visual shorthands between directors and animators, and you kind of want to work on something, or you don't want to work on something necessarily, but like it's very easy if you work on something where you can very clearly tell what the director is trying to communicate. And the episode's director, which was Yasunori Koyama, did like a really good job at communicating things through like very rough but very understandable storyboards. And it just so happens that his style is very much in the tradition of like Shigeyasu Yamauchi, you know, Nagamine, who was the series director at the time. Yeah. And that kind of like very heavily stylized, melodramatic, like stage-like vibe. That is very much what I like. And especially at the moment, I was super into that. And I was like kind of studying it for myself separately. So it was like a very good fit for a start. So I got to do something that made it through to the end with like actually very few changes conceptually. I was like very lucky for a first job.
No, I was about to say that it sounds like in some ways you had the best experience possible for a first job. I'm more than positive you could think of some people for whom their first real credit was nightmare-inducing might be the nice way of putting it.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I was very lucky, and I mean, I felt at the time I felt lucky that I had the job, but I was so scared all the time while I was working on it because I didn't understand shit. Frankly, I was winging my way through it. There are these like documents that pass around that like, you know, people who work in this like have that's like advice and explanations. There's like the Satsuma book, which I had seen like a very like early translation of at the time, and I was just kind of like scrambling for resources, referencing everything I could, and it turned out okay. Though definitely it was like a lot of work. It was like a lot of long hours. I had not yet developed a sense of self-preservation that I have now.
No, well, but also, I mean, in some ways, that's only something that you can only properly learn by actually getting your foot in the door at first and actually going through the thick of it at least a couple of times. I mean, as much as we'd like to say that there's a nice little playbook for how animators and anime production works, as we're probably going to talk about later, that is anything but the case.
Yeah. It's you have to like there's some theory, and this will also surely come up later. There is some stuff that you need to like know when you go in that I should have known when I went in too. But but really, there's like a lot that you learn by doing and by just being exposed to the process, especially when it comes to things that can happen but don't necessarily like need to.
Yeah, and there's only so much, and like you said, there's only so much that abstract awareness of such a thing like that could possibly do when it comes to the real world application or translation of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned that you initially got into game development and that you didn't necessarily like the landscape for that in your country, and we should probably specify that you live in Spain.
Spaniard.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So again, not like shitting on anyone because this is like the kind of like systemic industry level stuff. Spain has like a very kind of divided. We have like a few big studios that have made games that have ended up becoming very popular. Like Mercury's team has had a good run, despite some what I hear, and I may be entirely wrong in this, and I'd be mixing it up, so I apologize if I do. Some like work conditions complaints at some points, but that tends to be like a running theme in games, to be fair. But it's a shame that it's our biggest studio. We have like Tequila, we have the developers, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name right now. The developers of Blasphemous and stuff. Though a lot of those things, Blasphemous was like a work in progress when I was studying for most of it. It was not really a finished thing. And we have like a very strong like independent developers, but like there's like a lot of talent. There's like Brainwash Gang, which I love. There's like Deconstruct Team, but there's usually like small teams of people that are already pretty close together working on smaller game projects that are great, but we do not have the kind of industry that kind of like funnel you into a job, if that makes any sense.
No, that does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like the time where I was quote unquote getting woke and like talking about crunch all the time, and I was like hyper aware of the way that was going on. So I was like, I don't want to be here. So I ran away into anime. I bounced away into anime, one might say.
That's a fucking quote. Oh my god. But so because you don't live in Japan, you tend to be hired as a freelance animator rather than someone who like goes to the studio every day and works there like 6 days a week. So aside from consistency of work, what are some of the lesser known or key differences between a freelance animator versus an animator officially hired at a studio, including pay, if that's something that you can talk about?
Okay, yeah, so there are tiers to this, basically. It's not just a difference between freelance and hired, or like there's different types of freelancers too.
Mm-hmm.
So freelance, most of the freelance work that happens is the kind of like gig economy stuff where you get hired for a specific scene, for a specific show.
Mm-hmm.
You get contacted by a PA. Here's the episode I'm working on. Here's the storyboard. Here's the available scenes. Pick one, do the job, get paid. Mm-hmm. If we like it, we'll contact you again. Like obviously, if they like you, they'll contact you again. And there's always like some sort of ongoing like partnership-ish thing with studios when you're like this type of freelance. Like when I was working with Toei, I was sure to get consistent work from them, but I was never under contract.
Mm-hmm.
Then what I'm working as right now is actually what you would call a semi-binding contract, which means that you are tied to some degree to a studio and ought to prioritize the work they give you. And that does come with like a monthly wage. Okay. But it doesn't actually count as like, in-house work. So it's like the monthly wage plus the standard unit price, the unit price being what you get paid per cut. And then there's like the full binding contract, which is when you are actually working for a studio with like, you have your desk in there or otherwise you're working from a distance, but you're supposed to like owe them an exclusivity. And that is why you will sometimes see like this animator who is like, I think Yutaka Nakamura working at like One Punch Man would be a case of like someone who is bound to studio bones, but like got called to the other production. So like, if I remember correctly, because it's been a while, I think he went like under a pseudonym in the other work, and that's how people get around that. The differences are obviously the amount of work you get. Like, when you're like being a normal freelance, you just get your scene, get to choose maybe from a series of like scenes in an episode. When you're working under half bind, you're gonna keep getting scenes. Like as long as if you're available and there is work to be done, you're gonna get work for the same show. So that's how you become like a regular animator.
Yeah.
And if you're under full bind, usually like that is people that end up. It kind of works the same way, but it's also very likely if you have full bind that you're going to be like one of the main animators in something, that sort of stuff, like the very recurring key animator. Anime does this like kind of strange thing where it's not very flexible about moving you in teams. So it sometimes is the case that like you will like not have work to do for a while, which is always like interesting. That's something that like Western animation seems to have figured out a little more. So it's like the work arrives a little inconsistently. The main difference, besides pay, obviously, is priority of like cut selection and the kind of roles you're going to occupy and scenes you're going to get. Very often, it's the case that you ask for a scene as a freelance, and they will be like, actually, one of our animators wants to take it. So there is like a bit of like an order that it arrives at.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. And it's always good to develop like a lasting relationship with a studio when it comes to like the involvement you get. Like, you know, as a freelancer, I ask for a scene, they tell me yes, no, I take it or no, normally. But that's also because as a freelancer, I was very new in the industry and I didn't have like any sort of name. I kind of still don't have much of a name except for the people I've worked with, but you know, that's how it goes. When you are working for the studio like long enough, right? Like currently, and I can't say this as far as I know, I have been like with A1 Pictures ever since makeine was getting made. Under Halfbind. The way that works is at this point I can be like, hey, can I get a scene? Like for example, you can ask us like for like a scene with a specific content, you know, try to prioritize something or something else. You develop a bit of a relationship with your production assistant and maybe with someone else at the studio if you're lucky, which is very good for like humane social reasons, really. Otherwise, like there's like a lonely component to freelance work in the sense that it is gig economy stuff. You're getting processed to some extent.
Yeah.
And you know, the more tied you are to a studio, one of the advantages is that you know the people there at least, or some of the people there.
Because at least just from my casual understanding of it, as a freelancer, and because I think you outlined that the production assistant is the person who first reaches out to you with the offers, they essentially are the main proxy who you filter all your questions through to the rest of the team. So it's like you're working with the team, but it's sort of this invisible, nebulous team that you maybe only know in name only, as opposed to who they actually are and how they sometimes relate to the whole picture.
Yeah, usually you get to meet your like you talk to your PA. They are the nexus. You get to then during the meetings you get to talk to like other people. You get to talk to maybe another PA. You get to talk to the episode director that you're working with. Sometimes you get to talk to the animation director, though it has only happened to me like a time or two, when there was like specific stuff to do that would require their input. So yeah, it's usually that. Like that's also what one of the biggest differences is actually being able to work there. Versus, you know, working from home forever from another country.
Yeah, because you do you have any intentions to move to Japan?
I mean, I don't have the intention to like just go and stay there forever at the moment.
Yeah.
But with a somewhat secure financial situation that I am slowly, should I say I'm getting to it, or should I say that I am like orbiting it in a kind of like precarious 21st century economy way?
Yes.
But you know, as that happens, I would like to like be able to work at studio for a while in a desk there. Just because I feel like when it comes to learning, that's the other thing that I should have mentioned, and I feel like I skipped it. Learning is way easier when you're working in a studio or at least under contract, and you can like get complex feedback. A problem that happens a lot. I guess I may be like, you know, overstepping some of the questions that are going to come later, but one of the things that very much distinguish that like position is that when you're working as a freelancer, very often you will be told that your work is good, only to find it out like find out that it changed later down the line.
Through like
or that the corrections are very heavy, or to find it get retaken, which hasn't really happened to me yet, but you know, it's a possibility, and it's happened to people I know.
Yeah, so like with corrections like second key animations, or just with like animation director notes on that special colored paper that we might talk about a little bit later, or
but very shortly, like very, very summarized, it's just that they won't tell you what you're doing wrong or what you're doing right. As a freelancer, you're not expected to learn, you're not expected to get trained, and you're not expected to like be communicated with in a consistent basis. So very often, if you did something wrong, you may never know, and you may perpetuate it in other works, which is like one of the issues facing you animators now. While if you are at the studio, you have more chances to ask or just like straight up be corrected by people who will tell you, hey, yeah, for the record, next time. Because if if there's not gonna be a next time and they're just gonna get rid of you, they won't tell you. But if there's gonna be a next time, you know, you will actually find out what you did.
They're just gonna get rid of you. I imagine just like a gigantic pile of animators like underneath some bridge somewhere, like that, like all the on extended leave robots at Apocalypse Hotel. Just like
Maybe that's a thing that I just haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the main difference, is that sense of like participating in a big project, getting consistent pay, and being able to develop as part of something. Mm-hmm. That latest one is like probably the biggest one when it comes to like industry stuff.
Yeah. And because you talked a little bit about the learning process of being an animator and how you won't necessarily be told what you're doing wrong because you're not expected to learn, for new animators who are getting into the industry, do you tend to notice any particularly common mistakes that they happen to make?
Yes. In fact,
that's a loaded yes.
it's book worthy, and this is not me judging other people. This is me judging what I was doing when I started as well. Mm. I was really not cooking in some ways. So basically, the problem right now, and this is not only a problem on the side of the animators, this is an industry-wide problem in my opinion, is that work is spread thin. There's not enough time. There's not enough money. There's not enough resources. Or there is, but das Kapital. And the new animators are picked up with little regard for like their actual skill in fundamentals and stuff. So many animators just plain and simply are not ready for the job. I was not ready for the job when I got picked up. I would have been even less ready for the job had I been picked up for Boruto that early on.
Yeah, you had to do those several months of self-study that you were referring to before.
Yeah, there's like a lot of, people that don't know how to notate a cut. They don't know how to write a timesheet properly, which can prove like hellish in like steps later down the line, because that's like a lot of time that other people have to correct later. Basically, people are missing critical skills that can be, again, the proper notation style, understanding camera instructions, understanding perspective. There's a lot of people that like are not really comfortable or good with drawing the perspective and backgrounds. Just like basic draftsmanship skills that can be missing if people focus on one thing. Maybe you post a lot of flashy action because you really like, Yutapon or Wailing Zhang, and they pick you up because of that for an anime with Sakuga ambitions, and then you're working on it and you don't do the background notation right, or the camera rotation is all busted, and then the director has to fix it, and then the animation director has to fix it. And it can just pile up. So that's a very important thing, is to just like have strong drawing fundamentals and be familiar with the notation style of anime. It's easier for an animator to get better at drawing on the job, and it's better for the production than for them to get better at like knowing the job on the job to some extent.
That does make a very, in its own way, very twisted kind of sense.
I mean, so the thing is that the way it used to be, and the way it should be, is and this is the way it's in Japan for a lot of people, you come into the industry after a vocational school, and you get into the doga department. You're an in-betweener. You trace people's frames to clean them up, and you draw the stuff that's in between, which is going to give you like training in line consistency. You're going to draw better lines. You're going to understand the volume of the cuts a little better because you're going to expose to drawings by people that supposedly know it properly. And from then you tend to like graduate to like checking that to key animation, and people would develop there, they would train. But freelancers, and most people are freelancers in the West, all of them are pretty much, until they develop like a certain pedigree, are expected to like come into the job knowing everything they need to know.
Oh, I see.
So they don't get trained. So really, on the one hand, it's a bit of the animator's fault for not evaluating their knowledge versus like what they actually need to know. But it's also like, again, a systemic problem where people are not doing thorough checks on them and are not training them, so they become this sort of like expendable labor. So if you're I guess for anyone who's a new animator hoping to get in the industry, just get solid at drawing. It's never too late to get a cool credit. But it's too late if you screwed up your scene.
Don't be the cog that glitches in a system of already so many glitches.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of like, be sure you have your fundamentals down. It's fine if you don't know everything, right?
Yeah.
It's not like my first cut, I made mistakes and then I never made them again. I have screwed up in what I hope are increasingly small ways all my way to here. Uh, uh, but it's a matter of doing it in a reasonable way, in a way that doesn't like make productions impossible. Trying to communicate, ask questions to your PA, be like the most annoying person ever, if that's gonna help you deliver the right work.
Yeah,
That goes for most jobs. That's not an anime only thing, but it's better to ask than to have to correct things later.
yeah. I imagine that also a problem that sort of creates this sort of self-propagating issue is also just because of the sheer, and this is probably a separate topic altogether, but just the sheer volume of anime being produced means that stuff has to get done now. So the time that could possibly be spent doing vocational training by teaching people doga line work and then having them eventually graduate to key animations is something that's just increasingly vanishing. I mean, the Kyoto Animation School is the only school that I know of that actually says this is how you animate. You start with this, then you do this, now you're going to move on to this, etc., so on and so forth.
Yeah, so it's complex. I'm gonna add one last instruction to before that I have thought about while I was finishing, which is if you ever get a scene, please read the storyboard for that scene carefully, and also read the stuff that's before and after. Not all of it necessarily, though it's ideal. But just develop a sense for the continuity of the thing. That's gonna help a lot of people.
No, yeah.
Deal with your work. Anyway, schools. Kyoani has the most famous anime school for sure. But they're not the only one, and there have been initiatives recently. Like I'm pretty sure WIT opened one, though, and I'm gonna get into territory that I don't know much about, but I think that outside of the kind of like private universities in Japan that you can get into for that, the studio sponsored schools do very weird stuff. Like for example, if you cannot complete a course or choose not to work for the studio later, the money they have, and I hope if someone has gone through this corrects me if I'm wrong, but I remember this from a while ago when WIT announced it. The money that has been used in your education is considered an investment, and if you don't return it by working for them, you may be asked, or if you don't finish it or drop out, you may be asked to give it back. So it can put you in debt, which is a thing that animators, and even worse, aspiring animators, can't really afford, I would think.
No, yeah.
So there are attempts at like teaching people, but to me they have felt pretty like half-hearted or like incomplete, especially when it comes to foreign animators are not trained.
Yeah.
If I went to Japan right now and I like got into an animation school properly, then I would definitely like get trained there. But that is a trip, that is money, that is language. And so like as someone entering in the industry, training is very scarce. Scarce? I don't know English.
Scarce, yeah.
Yeah.
Scarce or sparse.
Of course. Okay, yeah. So that's pretty much it. I feel like I haven't given many concrete things, but maybe we can get like a list out of those with the drawing fundamentals, timesheet, notation, and please, for the love of God, check the storyboard thoroughly. That's it. That's the options.
No, that all makes perfect sense, and that's all great insight. So now let's actually, and this is extremely loaded, what I'm about to ask you. I am apologizing probably for the essay that you are going to have to, word of, just off the cuff have to go off on. But let's take the idea of learning everything that you've got and now actually get into, the weeds proper. Because I mentioned before during the introduction that the large bulk of your work is as a key animator. So what exactly does that mean? And if you can, in the... to the extent that you can without waiting until the sun goes out, walk us roughly through the creation process for, say, a standard 12 to 14 episode run of an anime.
Okay, I'll do my best. I'm going to skip some of the business stuff that I am not so sure of and stuff. But being very, very rough and very quick, first of all, one of the things that characterizes the anime production model is the production committee model, in which anime is not produced by a specific company that owns it, but rather by a collective of smaller companies that get together and place minor money investments so that the risk is not super high. Those companies involve, obviously, the animation studio is part of it, but they don't tend to be the owners or the majority of the committee, except for the case of Kyoani and maybe some other specific productions. They involve like the studio, and they involve, TV stations. They involve the music label that is going to be involved, the talent agency for the actors. They will involve the, toy companies if the show is something that is going to produce them. It kind of like is a malleable entity that depends on the kind of show getting produced. For example, when you're thinking like a music anime, you can expect an instrument brand. Like, I think Bang Dream has been like a faithful ESP. So like everyone, no matter what guitar model they use in the show, uses an ESP.
Mm-hmm.
So that means there's like some money from them, for example.
Yeah.
So that's like a funny example, figurine companies.
Yeah.
So that's like the production, and they kind of like together, and depending on their demands and contributions and money, they will set a series of parameters for the production. They are essentially like the investors.
Mm-hmm.
So so they are going to make demands of the studio. You're going to see like the deadline is going to be set. You're going to see that the certain sequences or designs are going to become mandatory. It's all very case by case, but yeah, you can imagine them as like the bunch of like hungry shadows waiting to reap the fruits of the show, and thus like demanding their dish to come out a specific way or not. The studio starts working. First, there's a pre-production phase where the key staff is defined for the show, right? That'd be like the director, the series composition, the art director.
Yep.
The people that are going to like define the look and feel. The main like series outline is going to be drafted, and meanwhile the production staff is going to be scrambling for all of the rest of the staff they're going to need. Once that stuff is decided, the episodes there's like different production lines is how you would refer to them.
Yes.
So you have like the line producers or production assistants handling like the different episodes that are going to be produced in parallel, which is how anime can be produced in such a short time.
Yeah, this is one of the things that we need to at least just clarify up front, is that it is not a case of like the studio works on episode 1 and then the episode is done and then they move on to episode 2 and then they move on to episode 3. Like, it's not like one immediately after the other. Like, they're sometimes working on 4 or 5 episodes at a single time, if not more so.
Yeah, like in a given show, as an animator hired at a studio, you may be working on episode like 3 and 9 at the same time, for instance,
right.
And like no one's gonna bat an eye. That's like the normal thing to happen. Obviously, some episodes are given different circumstances and times depending on their narrative importance. There's like prioritizing happening constantly. Like beyond the general scheme, there's like the amount of micromanaging involved in an anime production being finished is incredible, and I can't really convey that. Like here, the level of decision making that the production staff and like the more creative staff has to be making all the time. But yeah, episodes get produced. Episodes have a script, which becomes a storyboard. A storyboard being in Spain, they're very often called just like graphical scripts.
I mean, that's not an incorrect way to talk about it. Yeah.
No, it's very literally what they are. So it's the script involving the image describing the action with different degrees of like cleanliness in the drawings. You have the description of the action, you have the dialogue, and you have the timing, and you have the effects. It's all divided usually for TV anime, it's divided in 2 parts, part A and part B, because there's several commercial breaks, but there is always a especially big commercial break in the middle of the episode.
Right.
Roughly around the middle. It's not literally in the middle.
Yeah.
And everything itself within the parts is divided in cuts. The cuts being just like numbered, and you consider a new cut when the camera changes to a new shot, basically.
Yeah.
So new background, new cut, roughly speaking.
Like cutting to a new camera.
Yeah, obviously simplified. Those cuts get split into parts, usually named after the letters of the Roman alphabet. I specify Roman because we're doing anime here.
Yeah.
Those parts containing roughly like what you would call a scene in a movie.
Yeah.
So basically the course of a specific type of action, though they will increasingly get fragmented as production goes on, but that's a different problem. And those parts will be by the production assistant assigned to the different animators that are going to work on the episode. The key animators then will have a meeting with the episode director and the production assistant where the content of their scene is described and specifics of the technical elements of the scene are defined as well. The key animator then will proceed to draw the layouts, which are the skeleton of the scene. Essentially, the title refers to like laying out the different elements so that the composition of the shot is understood. But nowadays, the layout can be roughly thought as like rough key animation with all the necessary notation to imagine the finished scene. Then that layout will be sent to the director, who will check it for inconsistencies and other problems of intent, or things that they just think would look cooler, honestly, which will later be sent to the animation director to draw over the layouts properly. This means that the animation director is usually a veteran, more experienced animator. There being a chief that is usually the character designer for the series, who knows the models thoroughly and can draw them quickly, who will correct everyone's drawings in the layout to make them look like the character models. For the sake of consistency, ideally you have like a couple animation directors or chief animation directors per episode. That has long been forgotten.
Yeah.
You still see that, like City Animation is like an exemplary anime production. It's incredible.
Yes.
Other productions, you will see like disasters where like there's as many animation directors as you would have key animators in a more functioning show. But yeah, they will do the corrections, which then get handed back to the animators, who now draw Genga. The finished animation. There's like a very complicated like nomenclature, and like in the sense that
Right, yeah.
people use words very liberally here, but you can think of like layout and Genga.
Yeah.
Ideally, it's sent to the same animator, who will then clean up the drawings by copying the changes that the animation director has made, and applying them to all of the frames, matching them. Usually, the word "match" is the one that gets used to deliver the finished quote-unquote cut. Sometimes the key animator, because of the horrifying freelance situation, will not be available because they've moved to another job or are busy doing other layout or whatever the case is. And so someone else will have to take care of them, in which case it is referred to Negan, or second key animation, a role that has now become very distinctly split from the original, but wasn't originally. Then that gets checked again.
I'm sensing a theme here of all these various roles just constantly getting divided and divided and divided.
The history of anime as an industry nowadays is an industry of fragmentation and hyper specialization. Well, less that than just fragmentation, honestly, because if people were that specialized,
Yeah.
but that's cool. I shouldn't have said that. But that gets sent again for corrections, and then it goes on to the Doga department and Chiage, who are the ones to clean everything up with a different style of line that unifies the aesthetic and draw the in-betweens. Their job entails like a lot of tracing and like fine detailing, really, to like draw the new frames. That gets colored, and then it gets sent to the compositing staff, who has been working putting together all of the files layer by layer, drawing by drawing, in Adobe After Effects or a similar program. It's After Effects, frankly. And then applying the necessary effects, line filters, light flares, glows, and everything that is going to look finished look. For all of this, the episode has been dubbed, which is to say, given voice work and sound effects. And if everything comes together by the end, congratulations, you have an episode of anime that will be hopefully in time for airing.
Yeah, well, hopefully in time for airing. Yeah.
And you can imagine separate production lines doing this. So maybe episode like 1, 5, and 9, 2, 6, and 10, if we're going very clean about it.
Yeah.
And so those lines will advance in parallel, and hopefully everything will be done by the end.
Now, in terms of the dubbing of episodes, it's true, generally speaking, not generally speaking, perhaps more often than not, that the dubbing actually comes back when either the first key or the second key, Daiichi or Daini Genga, has been either done or is roughly completed. Because the thing is, you got to be able to get a time when everybody can get into the booth and start recording their audio, and that doesn't necessarily happen when the episode is visually fully clean.
Yes, indeed. So there's this misconception. It's not fully a misconception, because like roughly it's correct. Of the difference between Western animation and anime. One of the biggest ones being that in Western animation you record the voices and then animate to them, while in anime you draw generic lip flaps and then the voice actors match their voices to them. And that is generally correct, but animation is indeed like pretty much never complete by the time the voices are done. When dubbing happens, you take the most advanced version of every cut as it is and use that. Cuts that are in Genga, use the Genga. Cuts that are in layout, use the layout. Is there a cut that the layout isn't finished and you need the storyboard? Oh well, you use the storyboard.
I imagine also that, especially as the stuff is sent to the sound booth, and then the say you have to say their lines. I imagine that, especially as the cuts are older and older, so like the further back into the production pipeline you go, that could cause potential timing problems or other things that would later need to be fixed in editing, or even more things that key staff would probably have to animate or correct or do in-betweens for.
I don't think I quite caught exactly what part of the process you're talking about here.
No, just like when the idea that depending on how early in the production pipeline something is sent to the booth, like, and how that might cause potential problems, like, oh, like the animator, the say you said the line for X amount of time, but the original storyboard only said that it should last for this number of seconds and this many frames in that second.
Absolutely. The more finished the animation is, the easier it is for the voice actors to deliver.
Yeah.
Like something that is adequate. Otherwise, then you get into this thing, and I've never been in the position to work on this part, so there's like a degree of just educated guessing here.
Yes.
But usually what you're gonna get is animation directors taking the lines and trying to like change some stuff about the cut. Basically, you change the part that is easier to change for it to fit. If the cut's gonna be fine by just like retiming some lip flaps, you do that. But if the timing doesn't work, you may need the actor to repeat it, for example. Yeah. And to be honest, I think one thing that us Western anime watchers miss very often, because we're looking at subtitles, right?
Yes, we are.
Or most of us are looking at subtitles. That makes for a very different viewing experience. I think people do not realize just how not matched the lip flaps and the dialogue are.
Yeah, they're
as like a baseline.
Yeah, there have been some times where the seiyuu will sometimes give the line delivery, but the way that it's edited into the episode, like, the line starts happening before the lip even starts moving by, like it's like sometimes like in-game lag. Like, it's not enough to the point where it becomes like unplayable, but it's enough to the point where you actively recognize that it's like not as precise as it should be.
Yeah, there is an abstraction that is assumed, and normally as a rule, you don't like, if you time your lip flaps to the dialogue exactly, like to a phrase, you're gonna get corrected most likely. Usually, there's like a neutralization of lip flaps where you want to do them on threes, aka one you're drawing every 3 frames.
Yeah.
and just kind of like, if there is mouth movement matched with sound, that's fine normally. Obviously, it depends on the cut. Other cuts would need like, properly animated speaking. Like, let's say a character is like screaming. Imagine like a scene in Gurren Lagann, right? Like, my drill is the drill that'll pierce the heavens. That's one that you can like screamed out loud. That's one that you cannot really like 1, 2, 3 serifu your way into. You cannot just like do standard walking. You're gonna want to have some secondary action. You're gonna want to have like, maybe if the camera is moving, zooming in and out of the character, you're gonna want to animate that by hand. Those are the ones where you want the expression to happen. But for a lot of it, it's very abstracted.
Yeah, I remember there's the one scene in and you'll probably remember the moment. It's in Battle of Gods when, and I'm going to use the dub line here just for the sake of clarity. When Goku screams like, "I will not let you destroy my world." If you actually look at the animation for that moment, like even just in like the Japanese text, like it doesn't even look like he's really saying any words when he does that. When Goku says it, and shoutouts to Goku's voice actress, who has been an absolute anime industry staple legend for goodness knows how long. But like, that's one example of what you were talking about before, with just the idea of lip flap sometimes just simply not matching.
Yeah. And it's fine, right? Like, the scene works very well because the overall kinetic energy of it matches the voice performance.
Yeah.
And so like, that's fine. That is considered fine most of the times, right?
Yeah.
Shout out Naoto Shishida. I don't think I have seen him animate like something with a normal timing in years.
Yeah, and just because I want to say their name, Masako Nozawa. I had to very quickly just double check that I was getting the name right for Goku's longtime seiyuu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just got an award, right? Like.
Yeah.
Like a celebration.
She did. She was one of the 21 honorees for that year's roster of Persons of Cultural Merit, and the first voice actress to be so honored.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a voice that whenever I hear it, like, I think she plays like an elderly dragon in Rage of Bahamut, Virgin Soul. When I heard it, I was like, wait, hold Kakarot, is that?
Yeah. Not Kakarot, Bahamut.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've talked about Bahamut a lot over the years that I've known you. Yeah.
I like that show a normal amount. Especially the first season is pretty fire.
Yeah, I know that as soon as I start watching that, you're gonna like I'll be 1 second into the episode and I'll just be like, "Hey, Aaron, guess what I'm watching right now?"
Yeah, and I'm like, hi, how is that going?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so we just talked a little bit about not matching lip flaps and how like that's something you might either get corrected for or just the fact that it's sometimes a production problem that manages to sneak its way through. So there are now just because I watch anime and I don't take part in creating it like you do. I mean, there are some rather obvious ways to tell that a production is having trouble, most usually when there's some kind of an announcement of a delay, or the characters look particularly off model, or in the case of Whisper Me a Love Song, when just instruments are flat out missing. So those are rather obvious ways, but in your mind, what are some of the more subtle ways in which we can detect that a troubled or a lackluster production is taking place that we can detect as viewers?
So first, for more like extra diegetic ways, let's say, the credits are a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Some credits are just kind of scary. There's like patterns that you will see when it comes to like, maybe a credit contains like an ungodly amount of key animators or second key animators, and some of the names are straight up like studios that are subcontracted.
Yeah.
That's like a scary thought.
Wasn't that what happened with Uzumaki?
Yeah, that happens with a lot of things.
Yeah.
People make like a very big deal of like listing and counting the amount of animation directors, and it is usually a till. I want to warn against the sense that two is not worse than one. Like if you're going in like small numbers, that just means that the different people have had. It can mean that different people have handled different like specialties. For example,
Yeah.
you will have an action AD, a mecha AD, an effects AD. Those things are normal. But if you see an episode and there's like a list of like 14 animation directors, you know that some fun has been had in the studio, by which I mean absolutely none in the slightest. I guess that's like one of the better tales. Within the episode, I think you develop kind of an eye for it, and looking attentively is part of it. One of them is just like inconsistency in the drawings, which it can be voluntary. There's some episodes where like animators that value an expressive quality above everything else will let people just kind of keep a lot of the drawings. I think a lot of that was like intended in, for example, Full Equally Progressive, or like the second Fate Camelot movie. That movie, I'm pretty sure like the main action animators got to board their own scenes just like straight up.
Okay.
So not all inconsistency is proof of a disaster, though sometimes you rectify a disaster by turning it into an intention, which is not a bad idea. But that's good actually. Like it's smart.
Yeah.
But yeah, inconsistency is a quick way. There's like this thing that people call melting now, that I'm pretty sure a lot of people caught wind of the word like when Chainsaw Man, the first season was airing.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember seeing the word like melting, or like some kind of other word that alludes to the same general conceptual idea. Yeah.
Yeah. That is like, when in between, like the in between drawings are not consistent enough, and you get this impression that the lines are wobbling back and forth during movement.
Oh yeah.
That is like a smaller one. I feel like that is one that you have to like look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like actively. You don't have to be a detective, but you have to be like looking at the episode to to catch the more like common instances of it. The thing is that many things can go wrong in many different departments. Like, for example, you will have cases of things getting back, like, bad compositing can be also a production problem. Like, things arrive at the compositing stage so late that the episode, like, that you can very clearly tell that it didn't get the time that it needed. And so you will have, like, things that look like they don't belong, wrong camera movements that don't get caught, bits of background, cuts where the camera is spanning and you will see the camera like get out of the background momentarily, so you'll see like a black corner.
Yeah.
There's like those are like that one is like a very extreme case, but usually the only thing I can say is that normally it manifests in a bad look if it's a really bad production. Sometimes it'll manifest in like blockbusters like Chainsaw Man or Jujutsu Kaisen. It'll manifest the most in like the details, really.
Yeah.
And also, besides like a given production going wrong or not, other signs of production quality to look for are like incomplete layouts where like which I guess that's like a bit more of a complex term, but like shots that look flat that are missing in detail, where the relative size of different objects doesn't work. Then there's a lot of things that you can see go wrong, really.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's just a matter of like the more you look at good shows and like kind of mentally record them as things that look good, the more other things stand out. Like I rewatched the first episode because a friend rewatched it, so I kind of like followed after of Xamdi Lost Memories,
Oh yeah.
which is like it's like pretty old at this point. The layouts on that shit are incredible. There's like a sense of like ambition and depth to all of the shots, especially the interiors. And like if you like pull up like 99% of anime that's coming out now, you're not really gonna see that kind of care.
Right.
Not to like go full boomer, but that is a difference. The layout quality like has decreased a good amount, and it's usually a sign like when a show that looks like very good comes out, like think of the cities of this world, really.
Yeah.
I guess because it's recent, every good example I will henceforth provide is just going to be city animation.
I mean, to be fair, you got a great show that you could just draw all sorts of commentary from.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
But yeah, the layout quality is like a very very noticeable thing to like tell. Modern blockbusters sometimes, very often, modern anime relies on 3D layout, which is not a sign of a bad production, right? Like
Right.
Psycho-Pass season 1 does that, and it is like a very sturdy show, so to say. But it creates a sort of like artificiality in the layouts where you can tell that there's less things that have been free-handed. The poses can get a little too stiff. So like very very obvious use of 3D layout is like something else that is like, this doesn't mean the production is going wrong,
Yeah.
but it signals like a sort of like lower baseline, if that makes any sense. But yeah,
Yeah, so it seems what you're speaking to more is like the baseline aesthetic consistency as opposed to like something actually just physically going wrong that you can witness happening in real
yes,
time.
exactly. They are two different things, and they intermingle
Yeah, well,
for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
The stronger the baseline, the less production problems are gonna like, fuck with you. Like, like there's limited productions that manage to pull through very well. Like I think Skip and Loafer would be such a case.
Yeah. And Skip to
Where
Loafer, yeah.
it's like not a blockbuster, but you watch it and there's a consistency to it that is very nice. You can tell it's like not falling apart in the slightest.
Yeah.
Well, for example, you have like My Dearly Beloved One Direct Priority, where there's constantly spectacular stuff happening in the series, but depending on how you're looking at it, if the devil's in the details, you're gonna see a lot of like issues pop up relatively early.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna be like caught off guard by the sudden finale. But that is, animators and other staffers, when they care for a product, do a lot to make it like look good despite everything.
Yeah, and it's also important.
So
yeah. I'm sorry, go
the
ahead.
the one lesson I guess is that a show seems to look good doesn't mean it's not facing production problems.
Right.
But very often, when a show is looking really bad, it's because, or like not really, like when a show is looking off, it's because it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and also just to stress that like production problems are a thing that happens that happens throughout the course of anime, and this is not just a recent thing. A couple of days ago, I was rewatching Kite by Umetsu Yasuomi because what else am I going to watch? And there's one moment when Akai goes to put his hand on Sawa's shoulder, and the hand does this very weird kind of like jittering back and forth that clearly like somebody as finely detail oriented as Yasuomi would never like deliberately allow to be in there. But it's also just an example that it doesn't matter necessarily when it happened or who necessarily did it. Like sometimes mistakes just happen.
yeah, no, for sure. And it's not like outsourcing and other problems that can like muddy up communication. Outsourcing itself is not a problem, but
Right,
that's
yeah.
a different thing. It's like it's not like problems that can muddy communication are new. It's just that their proliferation in an increasingly global industry with too much work and oversight is making them more common.
Right.
But yeah, things like in between errors are always really funny because you will go to like the most pristine movie ever made. You will go to like an Akira. You will go to a Bloodlust. Even then, you will just every once in a while see like maybe a a color trace line, like one of those red lines that separate a highlight, like that didn't get filled in and you can still kind of see it through the shading or things like that.
Right.
Or like a piece of clothing that gets colored in the color of like the adjacent piece of clothing because it wasn't well like established enough in the drawing. Things like that will happen and will continue happening. And yeah.
Or like a hand pose that seems to jump in between frames because it didn't quite get fully in between.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am going to use my power of incredible foresight and definitely not like previous agreement to say that this connects very well to the theme of AI.
Yeah. well, I mean, it's sort of it. I mean, it is in some ways just an inevitable thing that I do have to ask about eventually, and we are going to absolutely get there. So one thing that just because we were sort of talking about, you know, one of the things we've been talking about is sort of the ways in which we sort of talk about anime and production, and related to that is a recurring soundbite. Sometimes whenever like a production is very actively just like declining its quality episode by episode, you'll sometimes hear people say that like they ran out of budget or something, or oh, they blew all the budget on one episode. So now obviously you and I both know that every single production is different, so this is not like a universal standard, but generally speaking, to what extent is they ran out of budget actually a thing? And if it isn't, what tends to be like the main reason for declining production value in that way?
So, like most things, it is a terrifying machine and not a single reason. Budget it very much isn't everything. You can have like shows that start up with a similar budget but are produced under different circumstances, be that the time they get, the pre-production quality they get, the staff members they get, that are going to look radically different.
Right.
So as a baseline, budget is definitely not everything, and very often things that people attribute to budget can be attributed to something else. Something as silly as the friends of a certain production assistant or animator can dramatically alter the look of an episode within the same show, for example.
Yeah. Oh god!
So,
I just imagine like some random friend just doing like a visit through the studio, and then they say, "I don't like that cut," and then like the poor key animator is put on the rack.
Yeah, it's the way it goes is more like I, who have been working as a key animator for 20 years, have been given the chance to direct an episode for an action series. And I will now call friends who may be under contract for another studio or have not been considered by the production assistant, get them on board on the episode, and deliver a bit of a Sakuga spectacle. That'd be like a thing that can happen. And if I'm friends with the animators, maybe they won't ask for the ridiculous rates that they would otherwise ask if they're legendary animators. But then again, that is where budget comes in. Budget may not directly translate to animation quality, but it does translate to how long you can sustain your staff for, a production.
Yeah.
It relates to, like, maybe some studios can get bailed out if a production fails, so they can get, like, to make riskier decisions, while some smaller studio may not be able to do that. So that is also a budget component. Some animators charge a lot.
Yeah.
If you can list their name off the top of your head, they're probably expensive. Is how it goes.
You mean that I can't just call up Utapon and be like, "Hey, can you animate like this rock falling off a mountain?" and expect to just like get the A-OK immediately?
Exactly. It's absolutely. It's great. It makes for a very difficult situation where, like, budget is not everything, but it does allow you leeway. Mm-hmm. Like, you need a very tight production to be able to, like, overstep the help of budget, basically. Mm-hmm. The way budget does not work is you throw it at your favorite episode of a show and it looks better.
Yeah.
So, like, they blew all their budget in this scene. That's not usually true, like, in the slightest. Long production times have a lot to do with that. Dedication, like, staff members have a lot to do with that. Something as simple as, I'm trying to imagine a scenario like in real time at the moment. Mm-hmm. But like, for example, if an episode gets made with enough time and it happens on a location that has been long defined as part of the series, and you don't have to make new character designs for it, so you can skip to animation pretty straightforwardly and not have to do that much additional work. You also happen to have a director maybe that like is good at color scripting, so the storyboard includes complicated color notes or some of the frames are colored, things like that. Mm-hmm. maybe the episode hasn't been made with more money necessarily than the others, but like the look is going to be different.
Yeah.
It's going to be very notable.
Like, I also imagine that for you talk about location, I just imagine like shows that sometimes use recurring like uh like establishing shots for like a
Yeah.
city street, or like you have this one particular shot outside the school that is very frequently used, and like you just need to have like the same general shot of like
Yeah.
characters leaving the school. So you it's like, even though that may only be about 4 or 5 seconds total of airtime, that's still 4 or 5 seconds of production life that could be allocated to improving or refining something else.
Yeah, those compound like a lot. Those are called bank cuts.
Mm,
And they go from everything from like an establishing shot of a school, as you said, to a magical girl transformation.
yeah. Mm,
And smart reuse of resources is a lot of what makes some of the like most impressive productions be. Like people think about Ikuhara, for example, in terms of like the kind of like theatrical element, the
right.
themes of his work, and some specific like shared things. One of the things that I think characterize him the most is being very smart at using banks and limited animation. Like I think,
Absolutely.
I mean, not literally speaking, right? But like a quarter of every Sarazanmai episode
Yeah.
is reused, if
Yeah.
not more.
And even in episodes of shows like Utena or Penguin Drum, they use the same sequences or imagery in order to not only convey a certain aesthetic idea that the viewer recognizes through just its placement initially and then just through the cyclical repetition, but also because it's a way of cost cutting and time saving.
Yeah, it's usually the best looking things are the ones that can match muscle, like straight up. Like we have money, we have animators
Yeah.
that can do like cool Sako stuff with strong directorial intent. So I guess we've gone a bit far from like
No, that's all
the
good though.
budgetary stuff, but yeah, essentially budget is not unimportant, and I feel like there was a bit of a push for a while when anime discussion went like fully mainstream from like the people that knew a little more to be like, it's not budget, y'all, and like they were right to do that. But I guess it's fine to always like temper that responsibility. It is not unimportant either.
Yeah.
It's definitely
You
it's
still
definitely something to worry about. And the closer you get to a role where you have like an administrative position, like production assistants and stuff, I'm sure they struggle with that. I'm not. I shouldn't say I'm sure. I've seen it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you do need money to make the stuff. You do need
Yeah,
money to
that's
pay the
true.
people who make the stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
So so continuing in this vein of talking about the ways in which anime fans sometimes talk about anime or conceptualize anime, there's a couple of other things that I'd like to sort of expand upon, if we could. One is that there's a recurring thread that occasionally pops up, and it's the sentiment, and I'm sure you've probably heard this in some way. I don't like how older anime looks. So,
Mm.
from your perspective, both as an animator and someone with an interest in anime's history, what do you ascribe this feeling to?
Okay. So this is the one where people can call me old, I guess.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it's just it's a combination of elements. I cannot say it's a single thing, but the
Well,
first
yeah.
thing that comes to mind is obviously like a limited media diet from people, right? Like people who say this about anime would probably also not be able to watch like a pre-2000s movie. Like I think it's not like an anime only thing. I think that tends to come like as a general way of appreciating things. There's a bit of progress there, right? Like
Right.
the development of the technique, or not the technique. It's not the technique. The development of the technology around a medium being equivalent. I'm gonna get this a bit closer to me. Sorry for your mix.
No, it's
The
alright.
development of technology within a medium being like equivalent with the quality of the products or of the works in that medium, which is just false, but it comes from a limited understanding, right?
Right.
So I would say that's the main reason. It's there is an element to which I can understand that it's a difference in language, right? The formulas and vocabulary, so to speak, of older anime, not literal vocabulary, but the way it's presented,
Yeah.
of older anime can be difficult for people that are not used to it to understand. It's not like you have to enjoy it. Some of it is technologically tied. The overall pacing and rhythm of the drawings in a lot of 1970s anime, and if you go older, which Most, you don't normally. Um,
I,
70s are like the first era where people, I feel like nowadays still intently watch things like Gundam and whatever.
yeah.
Even though Gundam, for example, the first one is an extremely ambitious show that has like scenes that perfectly hold up nowadays, especially near the end.
Absolutely.
I can understand that the animation inconsistencies, the like rougher pencil line work, the shadowless style in lower definition would impact someone's ability to watch it if they're not used to it. Also, the way anime was commercialized, right? Like for older shows, like the obligation to have a battle scene per episode, for example, would also push someone back. It can be the length of shows, it can be the quality of the audio recording. There are things that are simultaneously an obvious technical limitation, but also an aesthetic landmark. And how you feel about them, I think, depends on how you are treating the art you're consuming.
And there's also,
Or like,
I think something to be said about just like simply just seeing more of it to the point where it just sort of becomes something you don't even naturally sort of think about. Like just like seeing more of it, getting used to it. So then the idea of like, oh, so this is how they might have possibly done something in the 70s versus the 80s versus the 90s versus yeah.
exactly. When you start I said language, right? When you start understanding them, like different languages,
Yeah.
then it becomes a lot easier to appreciate what they're doing with what they have, right?
Right.
And people say things look good for their time or not, and to some extent, you can say that like you can say that some of the action animation in Zambot 3 is very dynamic for the time, right?
Hello, Canada.
That's just me bringing up Canada, yeah.
Yeah.
You can say like that would not be an incorrect thing to say. However, you will see people say like Ava looks pretty good for its time. It's like no, it looks pretty good.
No, Ava looks. I would gladly watch like 1 minute of Ava
At
versus
that
1 minute of many other things.
at that point, what is happening, I think, is people are creating in an attempt at objectivity to some extent. They're applying the schemes that they have. They're kind of dividing the episode in like technology and artistic merit, and kind of like making a sort of like fake average out of the two, if that makes any sense.
No, that does make any sense, and it also, in a way, actually ties into the very next question that I'm about to ask you.
Okay.
Because you and I have known each other for several years, and in the many talks that I've had with you over that time, you've emphasized that people need to take a different approach sometimes to watching anime, especially for people who maybe want to go into more critical evaluation or reviewing format. So, what do you see as the mode of thinking that they need to get out of? And what approaches do you think that they should be more receptive to? And by the way, feel free to throw me under the bus because it is this very thing that got you and I to start talking in the first place. Yeah.
Luckily, that thing was like so specific that I don't think it's gonna come in. However, yeah. I guess I'm going to throw a lot of people collectively under a very large bus by saying that I think the problem is that people don't really engage with art as well. Like anime is an art form; it's a medium, right?
Right.
Animation is an art form. Anime is part of it, right?
Yes, it is.
I don't want to make like a super special distinction for anime specifically is the thing.
Yeah.
Usually people look at things in a sort of like static consumer lens instead of as a part of an art history, right?
Yes.
This is not to say that people have to learn art history or anything, but again, it is a language and it is a vocabulary that you can develop and that is going to help you understand things better. So this is going to be a bit of a long explanation, but I think one of the things that characterizes anime, and to some extent video games, I think suffer from this too compared to other mediums, is that the communities of people that do critique and that do discussion have been formed mostly in fan spaces.
Yeah,
and over a
that makes
relatively
sense.
short period of time in the age of information.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Concept, age of information. And so games now have game studies, the quality of which varies, as do most fields, which are like pretty popular now, and they already have the problem of them being disconnected from the sort of like large perception of games, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, mainstream critics are like thinly connected with game studies, and game studies are utterly disconnected with like the usual community. With anime, there is also like an academic space. I'm not saying that like you need an academic space to have like good discussion,
No,
but
yeah, of course not.
there is a sort of like fluidity and ambiguity of terminology in the way people talk about things. Things that would normally be relegated to like fan discussion, playground discussion,
Yeah.
like the way people use archetypes, like the way people talk about the deadest, the way people kind of like keep vague distinctions between demographic, genre, archetype, things like that.
Yes.
And the way terms like isekai get kind of like co-opted into hyper generalized forms that are fine for like talking to your friends about something, but not good for building like a critical
Oh my
corpus,
god.
right?
I mean, even
Like,
even just recently, and I really mean like just like in the last season, there was the sort of it became a bit of a meme show with the twist that it was designed to pull, the show Turkey. There was a not insubstantial amount of discourse about whether or not this show belongs to the isekai genre because it involved the characters time traveling to the past.
I'm gonna be real. I don't really know much about that show except for like the one trailer that got people interested.
Yeah.
But I think that is the thing that those discussions. It's not like you have to be pinpoint accurate every time,
Yeah.
but there should be a space where accuracy is relevant.
Yes.
And normally you have those, and that will bleed into like the mode of general discussion. Is how that goes, right? Like, there's millions. I don't know if millions, but there's like a shitload of people writing reviews in like Letterboxd, like Goodreads, like game sites, where they like give their opinions on things by using like quasi-technical vocabulary. That's like to some extent that is a sign of a healthy a healthy space where people like try to learn. And I feel like anime has like a stronger distinction there. I think there's many other things. I don't want to make this like an overly like academicist like take on this idea.
No, yeah, but
I think it also has to do with the mode of consumption. Anime, especially now, is so easy to consume following the seasonal model where you watch everything and things become unimportant the moment new things come out,
yes.
that it is difficult to develop any sense of historicity. And I think this like constant being in the present when it comes to watching something kind of like makes you understand it as a social experience before you understand it as a medium. Is it a wrong way to watch it? Not really. Is it a wrong way to watch it if what you want is to like develop a sort of like educated understanding of it? Then yes. It's like
Yeah.
that's so I would like really recommend. I think it's also like you can talk about old shows. There's like discussions about them too. You can recommend them to people.
Yeah.
Not that every old show is good. There's always been like terrible stuff.
Oh, there's always been garbage, yeah.
It's this thing of like understanding anime as an art form that is also like context dependent, that has a history, and that has like people that are working on it, right? Like you don't need to like list animators. You don't want to become the kind of person that is gonna name drop everyone all the time. To be honest.
speak for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I speak as someone who has been that person.
No, yeah.
But you don't get to like work here without having been like an animation nerd to some extent, I think.
Yeah.
Or like at least for your favorites. But it's this thing of like, it's people make it. There's like different trends in the way people make it. I think it's just developing a relationship with it that goes beyond the kind of like instant gratification is important. I don't know. It's the advice I would give people that like want to look into any art, which is watch it, appreciate it sincerely with the with the baggage that you have, and then be curious. Curiosity is everything.
Yeah. I mean, because one piece of advice that I sometimes give, and it's because it's ultimately something that can be solved with literally one click, is like just pick one of your favorite anime and like look up who the director is. What else has the director worked on? And because even then, even if it's a director who doesn't necessarily have like a clean sense of like this phase of their career and then this phase of their career and then this phase of their career, it at the very least gets you to stop conceptualizing anime simply as this thing that exists for your entertainment consumption and more as this thing that is part of a larger organic history and chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And try when you watch it again, do it sincerely, do it with curiosity. Try to avoid like, we all have like a sort of like mind vocabulary of things that we have acquired from either being too online. Maybe you have watched like 10 plus years of red letter media. You have like maybe you have like there's like many places you can get. Maybe you like used all of your free time in high school like scrolling TV tropes. I don't care. There's like sort of like there's a set of dogmas that you're gonna like develop, and that biases that it's not like you can just like free yourself of them by like snapping your fingers or anything, but
Right.
Try to remember that you have them, and when you watch something, instead of thinking about how to like fit it to those like very often incomplete like schemes that you have, just try to like reason it from the feeling on outward. Like think about why things are done, and engage with it in a more like open sense. Does it look bad because it looks old, or why do I think this looks bad? Why is it weird to me?
Yeah. And also, one thing that you and I have talked about before too is having to get out of the scheme of cleanly dividing things into like story, characters, sound, or like things that like sort of artificially imply that all of these things are somehow separate components, when in reality they inform and influence one another into a unified whole.
Yeah, it's definitely true. I mean, I think that is like an attempt that people make at like structuring their own texts, because texts are difficult to structure.
Yeah.
that has kind of like bled into the way, again, it becomes an invisible scheme that you use to like run through the things you watch mentally. Right. And I think it's just avoiding those, or at least trying to incorporate enough new elements to the way you think about things. Right, that's why some people read theory, or you watch a lot of things. The more stuff you incorporate, the more you're gonna be able to like think about things actively as you watch them. Like, this no longer is just weird. Now it's like, oh, it's weird in the same way this other thing was, or this reminds me of this. I think it's an experience of discovery and like backward, like hypertextual, like backwards connection. Like the more you learn about something, the more you learn about things that you already knew about.
Yeah, exactly.
And the easier it gets to incorporate new things.
Yeah, and you just start to build this sort of like personalized intellectual communion, not only with yourself and all these various things you're drawing from, but also a thing that you're developing in real time as you're watching the thing that you're watching. The thing that you're watching. What a wonderful wordsmith I am. People wonder why I script videos instead of just talking on the cuff.
We're doing our best here.
Yeah. All right, so now we have to talk about the thing that you hinted at earlier, and we're now going to talk about proper. It's no secret that AI is starting to encroach itself into the arts, both in casual settings and professionally. And we even have anime industry figures like George Wada of Studio Wit saying that they want to incorporate it more into production, as if they haven't already done that with Inuto Shonen just a couple of years ago. I take it that I'm on safe ground when I say that you abhor AI in art?
I mean, yeah. I think wait, this shorthand, and I'm going to be very brief about this because I will readily recognize that I am at a point where the online AI witch hunts like annoy me just as much to some extent. Well, not just as much, because like morally it's different, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say that we start automatization so that we can enjoy human pursuits while leaving the repetitive inhuman tasks to something else.
Yeah.
Doing it to the arts is frankly really stupid. Anime is an industrialized process, so I'm going to say that I understand the impulse between automatizing some things like in-betweens. Some in-betweens require a lot of creative tasks. Some of them involve drawing a line between two lines at the exact middle point. So the idea of thinking about like making that automatic, I definitely get. However, overall, we don't live in an ideal society.
No.
Sadly, we live in a capitalist world. These things are not made to stop alienation. If anything, they alienate like the workers that are actually doing the stuff more. They force you to do, menial task correction stuff. I'm getting out of topic. I'm gonna go back to anime actually. But, it's essentially I'm against it. I'm against its use. I can imagine some certain cases for it, but frankly, nothing that is applicable and that is going to get done right now. The areas that it's invading so far are mostly like background art and harmonies, painting related jobs, because the image generation is the most like advanced, right?
Yeah. And
So like, no, I have no love for it. I don't think it should be here. Actually, I think I should take a moment to say, while CEOs are filling their mouths with praise, I guess I can get a little annoying about this. Well, CEOs are filling their mouths with all of the potentiality that AI has to fix and save the anime industry and make more production a possibility, as if that was in the slightest what we needed. Most actually creative figures within the industry, the directors, the animators, are against it, are very firmly against it. Ishitani Megumi of One Piece fame, of One Piece 1015 fame, of One Piece fan letter fame, has spoken outwardly against the use of AI within anime production, and she's not the only one in the slightest.
no, yeah.
It makes things difficult for everyone, like even beyond like any moral arguments, which I'm sure everyone who has made it to this video has heard before.
Yeah, the very likely.
From a practical standpoint, it makes everything more difficult. You want to have AI layouts? Well, they're gonna just ignore some basic concept, and AI cannot produce layouts because AI cannot think. You want it doing corrections that's gonna create other inconsistencies. AI is not consistent enough to do that. In the end, it's gonna give you a lot of approximations. AI cannot do the same thing twice, right? Not exactly. That is little inconsistencies that then a bunch of people are gonna painstakingly and slowly have to correct. It's just not even efficient, really.
Yeah. And because you talked about Dolga or in between multiple times in the midst of all of this that you've been talking about, do you sort of perceive Dolga or in between as the production pipeline position that's in most immediate danger of AI encroachment?
I think it's background art and Dolga. Yes.
Yeah. So and just because you actually mentioned sort of harmonies or postcard memories, for those who may not necessarily know that harmony is the term for it, because I didn't even know that until like 2 weeks ago. We have the recent controversy about Sekiro's trailer supposedly using AI, when I think we can agree that that's not what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. As well as yeah.
I am so tired, man.
I feel so bad laughing because, like, in a sense, like, we're talking about people's jobs in jeopardy, but at the same time, it's just like it is just this kind of cosmic frustration.
Yeah, well, there's this thing that people do, especially younger people, to be honest, where I feel like a lack of proper information and a lack of what's the actionable ways to make the world better, like against very complicated systems, makes people choose very specific targets and like lash out individually in a way that is not necessarily the most productive. And I think the AI witch hunt, and like again, I am very firmly against the AI in the arts.
Yeah.
Which I am firmly against it being called AI as well.
Well, there is also that, yes.
Yeah. Generative AI in arts, I'm very firmly against it, but the way people think about it and the way people try to like hunt down the individual people using it has created this hyper awareness where people are being discouraged from actually drawing because their drawings are bad and become AI, or and like people don't actually, there's like this I know it when I see it for the Americans in the room that comes up, that comes up when people talk about AI, where everyone seems to be like a supreme authority on it. And with the Sekiro trailer released and it got accused of being AI, it was a bunch of people that misunderstood the issues with the anime pipeline and were, faulty doga, aka in-betweens in which the image shows like inconsistencies between one frame and the next, like a line being poorly placed or showing up, got cold. And maybe if it turns out to come out that this was AI, then I'll eat my words, right? But
right, yeah,
like I'm pretty sure it's not. In betweens that have issues, which is probably in every anime, even the ones that Sekiro gets negatively compared to.
Yeah,
Is the thing. or like, issues with coloring, which like, when you have a very complicated design and the color department doesn't have all the time it should, sometimes, or like, it's like an outsourced studio that is not doing the best job. Sometimes it's just incorrect, and that's an art error. And animation is as much an artistic process as it is an industrialized one, right?
Right.
So it's not like there cannot be like, problems within the chain of production. That is like the baseline. And people who don't really know anime production are like hunting down for the possibility that like Sekiro may be using AI, and instead of like doing more useful stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't. Which I've said that like with great confidence. I don't know what something more useful would be to avoid AI in anime as like a Western spectator that presumably does not even pay for what they watch.
Yeah.
you know, but it is like a bad outlet, right? Essentially.
Yeah, because the most recent witch hunt was with Mechanical Marie, because we have Mizuno Uta as the credited artist for those detailed still images or harmonies, which were also seen in season 1 of The Fire Hunter, which you and I both like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be entirely real. I don't have these like still frames in front of me.
No, yeah.
I would not be surprised if AI was involved in the process, but I also cannot tell. But I also think that, well, it is good to call things out.
Mm-hmm.
It's also good to do it with proof, and it's also good to do it in a way that's relevant. You can't vibe your way into deciding, right?
Yeah.
And this is one where I'm not going to put my hand in the fire. I have no idea, actually. I've seen them in passing on my phone once.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like making a show of it is useful, but also not that much. And pointing at individuals isn't either.
Yeah. And especially because so much of the rhetoric surrounding people who have said, oh, this thing has AI in it, and now I won't watch this show. Like, it's fine if you want to, like, take the moral stand of not wanting AI in your anime. Like, that's perfectly understandable. But it also seems like the idea of, like, now I won't watch the show because it has AI in it seems to be, like, missing the forest through the trees. Like, isolating a hyper-specific scenario when the problem is perhaps far more macro.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's a personal choice. I think it's completely fair. Like, yeah, do that. Like, I myself kind of do it. Like,
well, yeah,
to my knowledge, I do not watch AI generated content. Right.
Right.
I avoid it, but thing is that I don't think there's much that people can do about it from like the audience seat, except like not paying. But most people pay for like a large subscription service and not for the show, right? Like that's how it goes.
Right.
So like it's difficult to say like how you can like be vocal against it except participating in whatever like social movements may be calling for like specific legal actions, right? But yeah, the singling out and individualizing of the problem is really like missing the forest for the trees, as you said.
Yeah. So
not that it isn't a problem, but
No, I mean especially just in that same vein, Crunchyroll's been having themselves a rollicking good time the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, okay, no, Crunchyroll, okay, yeah, actually, you want to stop AI, don't pay for Crunchyroll. Fuck Crunchyroll. I was thinking about drawings exclusively, but yeah, terrible AF subtitles made by people who are like perhaps more or like, corrected by people who are probably less paid than the people that were writing them with already a ridiculously low pay.
Yeah.
The mix-ups, Crunchyroll is also part of many production committees.
Yes, it is.
And I'm sure they're not against the use of AI. So, that's something worth thinking about.
Yeah.
Perhaps the company that once used to be a fan subbing group and then started like charging while keeping business practices proper of a small independent company while making shitloads of money and using AI translators, maybe don't pay for them.
No, yeah.
For anyone who supports it for that matter. That's the most you can do.
Yeah. All right, so now we're getting to the end of like the larger questions that I'm going to ask you, and with essentially being the way that I introduced you to this whole thing, I think that it's only fair to bring it all back to One Piece somehow. because everything that we love in life goes back to One Piece.
Let's go.
On the on the topic of Studio Wit, because I mentioned George Wada earlier, they did recently announce their adaptation of Oda's One Piece for future release, essentially a new adaptation altogether. And you've worked on the Toei version for like 7 episodes, and that production has been running for 25 years now. So how do you see the working landscape of the same property being adapted by 2 different studios at the same time, even if one of them is starting at the beginning?
I would already raise an eyebrow to a reinterpretation of a small part of the story in the form of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of starting the series again before it has even finished is a terrifying reminder of like the meaning and weight of IP.
Yeah.
It should not be happening. Like maybe the show will be incredible. I legitimately do not know, right?
Right.
A lot of people love One Piece. Many of the people that will work on it are going to be incredible animators with so much love for the original that they are willing to do things that they haven't tried before. They're going to put out some of their best work. Like I'm sure of all of that. But
Yes.
really, what do you mean remaking something that isn't over? There's such a lack, like a painful lack of original anime.
Yes.
like that, that there's like a degree of like dark comedy to it.
Do you have any idea how fucking great it would be if like Studio Wit announced that like in 2027 we're going to have like a new like 12 or 24 episode long original action anime, and like because it'll be so original you won't have like a manga to draw inspiration from. But the thing is, people want original content. I think, and now this is extremely informal, so I have no way of knowing whether this is true or not, but I think I'm on fairly safe ground here when I say that I think on some level people are just sort of getting numb to the sheer glut of highly specific gimmicked titles that usually involve reincarnation or maxing out your level, or like a 25-word title to describe like your season's basic rom-com. Like, I think people like want original content, and the fact that it's like, oh no, we're just going to remake One Piece.
And frankly, I don't know. People want to. I mean, saturation in genres happens.
Yes, it does.
Like that is undeniable. But I don't know. I don't know if enough. I don't know if people like. I mean, I know I do, right? But
yeah,
do people really yearn for original anime? I think people yearn for mostly high-profile adaptations of things they like.
Yeah, that's. I should probably clarify by saying the people that at least I talk to regularly.
Yeah, like that is the thing. I don't know. I don't know how I read on like what the people want for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What I do know is the numbers that the Kimetsu Train movie made, for example.
Yeah, it did.
Which is not to say that people would not appreciate an original anime, but getting them off the ground and advertising them and getting people interested is far more difficult than on the back of an existing IP.
That is true.
So while I think the people that like treat anime with a degree of like active interest and stuff would be interested in it, that is redundant.
Yeah.
While that is the case, I also think it's a bit of a lose-lose situation. I cannot say for sure that people want an original IP, and when it comes to the Witch One Piece, it's not like the reception has been negative. I mean, there's a lot of negative reception, but there's also so many millions of people that are gonna watch it.
Yeah, like there are people who like rewatch the entirety of One Piece like from beginning to end like 2 or 3 times, and it's up to how many episodes now? Like nearly 1,200.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I
And,
mean, for one, where do people even find the time to do that?
And like, the thing is that the aesthetic of the original show in its early stages, I personally the kind of like, let's say Dressrosa to like Thriller Bark, the pre-time skip aesthetic is like my favorite part of the show visually.
Mm-hmm.
Controversial, I think, and I'm not counting like the Soti like stuff.
Yeah.
Right, but like that is my favorite part of the show. It's very charming aesthetic, but a lot of the language it uses, the repeated fighting, like, the cycled fighting frames where it's like 4 or 5 drawings that like move in a sort of like erratic timing as people keep like fighting on the spot, the long wind ups, the kind of like very still frame oriented like look,
Mm-hmm.
and the bright, uncompromisingly like neutral colors. That's a that's not really what people watch now. Like that's not the visual language that people know. Going back might have a nostalgic look to those who watch it in television, but the average audience that has like grown on a diet of like at most normal hero aka and at most like bad shit in terms of like visual language Jujutsu Kaisen, right?
Right, yeah.
Are going to find it like slow and they're gonna find it janky and I think that's fine. I think that's like watching it is how you learn to watch it, right? But
Yes.
and find out its own strengths. But people are gonna watch this and they're gonna see like the iconic moments of Arlong Park or whatever drawn with the hyper complex character acting of today. There's gonna be like sun flares. There's gonna be everything, and they're gonna look at that and go like, "Oh, this is it,"
Yeah.
and it will be good. But you do not make a replacement for something before it's finished and while you're finishing it.
Yeah, there is that.
To be honest, I think a show, it's like when you like when you like look at the inside of a tree and there's like rings telling you its age, or like when people look at the different layers of soil and know like what's happened, right?
Yeah.
It is actively cool when you can look at a show throughout the years and watch it evolve with its audience, with the aesthetics of the time. It's not only a learning experience, it legitimately, I think, can develop a stronger connection to the material. But at this point, the Wit One Piece is not built to give people a strong connection to the material. It will introduce a new audience, but it's also just like a nostalgic work because One Piece is not so much a show as it is a cultural phenomenon.
Yes, it is.
That's about all I have.
No.
I don't want it.
Now watch this how you get approached to be like an action
Maybe.
director on it.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
I do it. I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah. you gotta eat. You gotta make that money.
But yeah, that's the situation.
Yeah. All right. So now let's completely change things and do some rapid fire to close this out. So I'll ask you a question. You give me a quick answer, like 1 or 2 sentences long, and then we'll do the wrap up.
Okay.
All right. So let's start with some non-otaku media related questions first.
Fun.
Television, movies, or live theater?
I am not going to count like anime as television because we've talked a lot about it.
Yes.
Movies in the sense that I have easier access to them normally. And it is what I reference because directing is very interesting to me. But as a viewing experience, I've recently been more into live theater. I think, most like long commercial cinema chain. I'm doing a long answer.
No,
Most
it's okay.
commercial
It's okay.
like,
It's all right.
Most commercial theater chains do not offer an experience that is like really fun to me between the advertisements, the trailers,
Yeah.
the overall noise in the room, the getting there, the returning, the prices. Well, going to the theater feels like there's an element of play to even just attending it.
Yes.
And the atmosphere that is built around it and the kind of experience, which is literally unique because the performance is going to be like done from scratch the next time.
Yep. It's all ephemeral.
Is unique. There's like, it's ephemeral in a way that like movies are not, and I find that very valuable.
So do you have a
Also,
favorite
visual
story?
language is cool as hell.
Yeah. Shoutouts to Ikuhara and Hosada and people like that.
Yeah.
Favorite story from live theater?
Oh God. From recent years, the best that I've seen probably have been a Spanish stage play version of Kafka's The Trial.
Oh, that sounds so fucking cool.
And also a Spanish version of, I think the English name is the Beauty Queen of Linane.
I would have to double check that, but I think that's right.
Well, I think the writer behind, like the playwright, is the guy who would end up writing the Banshees of Inisherin, but like I'm not sure if I'm misremembering.
Gotcha.
Irish theater of cruelty / absurd kind of place. Just like two main characters, a couple of people that appear only a couple of times.
Yeah.
Very small claustrophobic set.
Yes.
And constant anxiety that builds up to a small but sudden and very shocking burst of violence. It's good.
Yeah, no, it sounds like an absolute time. Favorite book?
Favorite book is a lot more difficult because first of all, I do not read that much, actually.
I mean, to be fair, you do a lot of reading. It just happens to be storyboards and director's notes.
I mean, yeah, and even within books,
Mm.
I'm gonna I'm gonna say like for nonfiction that there's like this joke that's like every man like reads something in their 20s that like will
Yeah.
define their personality forever.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that was the Society of Spectacle within nonfiction.
Hmm.
Uh, you ever want to read something that's just gonna make you like stare blankly at nothing and go, man, and then either follow it by a sense of doomerism or straightforwardly revolutionary ideals? That's the book.
Gotcha.
Uh, it's very, very, very in line with like the other famous like analysis of post-industrial capitalism stuff.
Mm.
And within fiction, I'm going to be an old person,
Please be an old person, old person.
and I'm gonna give a couple. One of them is gonna be just like The Lord of the Rings because I've been rereading it, and like the way that book has been intertwined with the book and the movies, obviously,
Yes.
has been intertwined with the way with the things I like when it comes to like relationship to nature, walking, journeying, has been filtered through that lens since I was a little kid. So I have like a very nostalgic connection to it.
Understandable.
In terms of like shocking me, I am just going to no explanations, no extras, say the name Coin Locker Babies, and let those go enjoy it. It's not like my favorite book, but I guess it's a good thing to drop.
That's a great fucking pick. That's great. Oh man. All right. The music that you constantly reach for.
I've gone through like different eras of music, but
Mm.
when it comes to like the thing that has stuck with me the longest, probably at this point it's gotta be like prog rock stuff that I can kind of like lock into.
Yeah. Well, I
Because
imagine.
I gotta say I listen to a lot of music while I work, right?
I was about to say you
Uh,
probably need something in the background to lock in as you're putting stylus to screen.
especially for like the more mechanical stuff, like tying up Genga and stuff.
Hmm.
So I listen to a lot of prog rock. I've always been like into that kind of sound, especially like the 70s stuff, like Yes, King Crimson, whatever. I listen to be honest, I listen to a lot of variety at this point in my life. I listen to a lot of jazz. I used to be a metalhead when I was a teenager and like a pretty heavy one.
Hmm.
But that kind of like went away and got like replaced by like smaller pockets of other things.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's difficult. I guess the other thing that I have like as a funny bit of taste, I really like the more like recreation, not like this thing that people do like the bardcore sort of stuff, but like I find like medieval music recreation like very interesting with like
Oh
folk
yeah.
instruments and stuff.
Like
Uh,
OG Spice and Wolf soundtrack.
yeah, think of like that, but with less of a Well, I like the contemporary edge. That's like one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. But
Hmm.
that, but also with less of a contemporary edge.
Gotcha.
And I have an absolute weakness for the nostalgic, wintry synths and sounds of like 2000s J-pop. I guess, yeah.
No, yeah.
I also listen to like Toho versions when I'm working. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, assume most things, though I admittedly like go more to melodic stuff.
That
And if
makes
I don't go to melodic stuff, I go to straight up noisy stuff.
No, that makes sense. All right. The last major non-anime fixation that you've developed.
That stuff.
Like if you had to pick just
Well,
one.
yeah. What would have been a straight up fixation, huh?
Hmm. And it's all right if you don't have an answer, by the way.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have like anything super concrete. I've been like dabbling in a lot of things differently, like recently, but like dabbling for the most part.
Hmm. Yep. All right. So, I know just also from talking to you and also exploring your Instagram that you love to explore abandoned locations. What's the best
Yeah,
place you've been to?
the best place. That's tough. It's difficult to describe a best place because I think my favorite abandoned areas are the ones that may not have a single impressive structure,
Yes.
but the ones when an entire area shows like that, like there's like an entire area where you can see like smaller abandoned things. Like for example, when you go to like a more natural space, there's like a lot of green, there's a lot of growth.
Mm.
Maybe an old town because where I live, there's like a lot of like old towns that may or may not be abandoned partially or entirely. And you just see these little remains of either a house or like a small power plant or like a water purifier or like a canal, and they kind of build up into like an entire environment of gentle abandon, if that makes any sense.
No, that does. I mean, the gentle abandon is one of the things that I like about watching a lot of sort of post catastrophe anime. Like, regardless of whether it's something like Apocalypse Hotel, where the overgrow is absolutely everywhere, except for that one part where it becomes a little near automata out in the desert. But yeah, but no, that makes perfect sense to me. So what is it? Would you say that it's generally that about abandoned locations that draws you to them?
I think there's a lot of it. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm gonna start with the most basic, less honorable one, which is that I just find them aesthetically pleasing as a baseline. My my brain chemistry was, altered forever by Tsutomu Nihei and people that take after his work, by games like Nier. It's like so like I have a certain interest, like a gut interest in that sort of thing. But also, I think it's very interesting as a form of like playing a little detective. You see a building. What was this? What was it used for? What can I find that can tell me more about it? You can imagine the lives of people that were there. You can imagine the way they lived. And I think in some way it's like relaxing how people can leave a place and the place just repurposes itself unless capital stops it. Like, you can go to an old building that maybe, the second floor is caved in, there's beams all over. And, maybe there's animals that are holed up in here, or at least bugs. There's definitely going to be, right?
No, yeah.
There's like growth everywhere. And there's this sensation of continuing life to some of them. And otherwise, when that doesn't happen, I also find it very interesting when an abandoned structure is so monumental and so like harsh as part of the environment that it doesn't really change. like a big factory, imagine, right? You can go in and it is abandoned and it is decaying, but
yeah,
there is this feeling that they have put a monolith in there, and though it will too eventually be reclaimed, it's just standing there. It's eerie. I'm trying to not use the word liminal nowadays,
but
because of like what the internet has done to it. But there is that element, yeah. The cross section between the intended use of a place and its current situation. It's just very interesting. It's always been a thing that I liked.
If I didn't know any better, it sounds like you sort of treat these like your own personal Suzume no Tojimari project.
I guess you could say that. I mean, the reason that movie called out to me more than other Shinkai films is that it doesn't deal with the apocalypse, but it deals with the aftermath to some extent. I mean, it deals with both, right?
Yes, it does.
But it is, out of his movies, it's the one of the recent ones where I've seen the most interest in what happens to the environment and the people in it after.
Especially with the people, and you and I have talked about this before, how it actively changes Suzume's outerwear as she goes along this journey of hers.
Yeah. In general, yeah, it's like a nice little movie when it comes to like interacting with disaster as like an active force in the environment, and with the environment as an active participant in the reconstruction.
Let's see. Favorite meal?
God, I really like food. Frankly, I like all the things. One of my favorites that makeine, like this may be the most difficult thing you have asked me so far.
I really like food. Aaron Rodriguez, 2025.
You can say that again. But to choose a funny one this is one of my favorites. I really like Spanish garlic soup, sopa castellana. Very, very flavorful, and I really like eggplants with honey. If you know that, like you like slightly fry them and like slightly bread them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's like a classic. I love that. So I guess I'm gonna go with those two.
Yeah.
I love a lot of food. As I said, that is the stuff.
Yeah.
And I enjoy cooking quite a bit, but that's the first that came to mind.
Alrighty. Early bird or night owl? I mean, I know you're a night owl.
Buddy.
How many fucking times have I said to you, like, Aaron, isn't it 3 a.m. where you are? And you're like, yes.
Yes.
Because you're still like doing your 12th hour working on a cut.
You'd be surprised. I am some of the like I'm one of the like least forced or forcefully night owl people that I know in the industry recently. I'm free enough. It's just over the years my schedule has been like kind of ruined, and so many friendships I have made while having a broken schedule that I need weird hours to maintain now. I mean, I don't, I could probably do it around it, but let's say I'm working on it and move on.
Yeah. Is that idea of being active at night one of the reasons why you started reading Call of the Night?
And the main reason I started reading Call of the Night was far less pure.
Yeah.
However, it is one of the strengths that I think it has, and that I think the anime fails to capture.
Oh man. Oh.
I think the anime fails to capture it, but yeah, I do love how it like represents like the dim lights and there is life, but it operates differently kind of sensation, especially when you go out like at night as a younger person.
Like the night is the
great.
time for adults. Like the night is this entire universe that I don't know about yet, and this is
Yeah, and,
sometimes
like,
just like guys passed out like drunk on the side of the road.
Yeah, no, but like, and like to some extent, as an adult that like goes out at night regularly, like the night is weird.
Yes, yes. No, seriously, yes.
There's like a whole like subset of like town NPCs that come out at night,
Oh
like
man.
different reactions to everything.
Mm-hmm.
My sense of direction gets like super screwed up depending on the city I am. But yeah.
That's fair. The best teacher you ever had?
Okay, so there's two that very immediately come to mind.
Please.
The first one, and I guess I'm not gonna name them. If they somehow, which I doubt, make their way to this video, they will know who they are. One of them, taught me chemistry because despite everything, I took like the science path for many reasons that I'm not gonna get into. Despite knowing that I absolutely sucked at the subjects she taught, and that frankly I didn't really care that much about it, and I was just going along because I felt like I had to. Like actually like very quickly realized what my interests were and tried to like help me foster them outside of the class. She was great, really really good person. Was actually in charge of the school's like small theater troupe.
Oh.
I was like really really involved with the arts despite being a science teacher in a school that had no official artistic path.
No, well, I mean, like there is relationships between science and the arts, absolutely.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
But seeing that in a school environment kind of like shocked me because I felt like I had kind of locked myself out of that. But she was like pretty supportive of it, and she had like this sarcastic humor that I really appreciate. Like
I detect that in talking to you almost every single day.
maybe.
Yeah.
The way she would give people shit. I say would. She's very much alive and kicking. But
Yeah.
I haven't seen her for her. And the other one is a Spanish teacher who managed to make the subject actually fun. So in Spain, I think, just in case someone doesn't know, in Spain we take a very different approach to the language learning than in English-speaking countries. We do a lot less literature. We're forced to read a lot less, which I think is kind of a mistake.
Really?
But we are actually taught technical grammar concepts from very early on.
That would certainly explain why you sometimes speak grammar a lot. Speak grammar as I just completely flub it. That does explain why you do happen to speak and write English a lot more articulately than some of the college students that I've had to teach in my life.
I hope you're right for the sake of having a job in case everything fails. But so basically, we are taught like, the different word like categorizations and taxonomies. We are taught like syntax analysis and all of those things. We spend a lot of time in those. And to be honest, to most of the students, the perceived usefulness of that is not very high.
Yeah.
And what this teacher did, is she would bring up examples, both in that and especially in the literature part of the course, of like media that wasn't necessarily classical literature. So, maybe students didn't want to read Becker's like Legends and Poems or things like that, or La Celestina. And, she would like come up with like a comic, would tell us about like Persepolis, right?
Oh, okay.
Or even video games sometimes, which made her feel like actually like
No,
someone that we could talk to.
No,
And,
yeah.
it's no surprise that she ended up being like the confidant for a lot of like the troubled students and stuff, because she was really like nice and understanding in that way. And I like had her as a teacher for like 3 years, but like not continuously.
Oh, okay.
So I saw her a lot, and she was great. She's great. Still.
No, yeah. I mean, that sounds like an absolute dream to have a teacher like that. And last of the non-otaku media related questions, the best piece of advice you were ever given.
And this is the one where like coming up with a response is gonna be absolutely deadly. I think it's like less a piece of advice on its own,
Mm-hmm.
because and I'm gonna keep my therapist out of this question actually.
Okay.
But the best kind of like example I've been shown, or the thing that has kind of been a guiding principle, has been a sort of like always be curious and always be like looking for stuff to learn. It's not
Mm,
like people told me that, you know, overtly with like that wording, but
yeah.
I feel like anyone who's like cared for me when I was a kid and like who's like given me advice in time, the thing that they've been trying to foster is that.
Mm,
So I think it's that. It's like the one thing that I've kept with, but there's, to be honest, many things. It's difficult to like summarize in terms of like single piece of advice.
no, that's all right.
Uh, yeah.
All right, so now let's go to some otaku media related questions. All right.
Oh god.
Yeah. Buckle up. The first anime that you recall watching.
Digimon. I'm pretty sure it's Digimon.
Yeah.
I think I watched some episodes of Adventure first, but like the only Digimon that like I was able to remember due to having developed the capacity for storing memories within me was Digimon Tamers. And it absolutely fucked with my sense of aesthetics and everything for the rest of my life.
Well, a Chiaki J. Konaka production will probably do that, to be fair.
4-year-old me looking at the Deer Reaper and like burning it into my memory. Yeah.
Remember when I sent you that picture of that polluted river and I said it looks like the D Reaper?
Yeah.
Let's see. The first anime character you obsessed over.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, this was a few hundred. I'm gonna divide this question into a couple of categories.
Go ahead.
In terms of like childish obsession, like full on, like I like character.
Yeah.
I'm actually making time as I'm looking for the name because we like localized it somewhat offensively in Spain.
Yeah. What are they from?
Digimon Tamers, indeed, because
Oh,
my things don't do.
Rika?
No, it was Genga Lee. Who, I'm pretty sure in the American version, I don't know what game got it. In Spanish, they called him Henry. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah! With
Yeah.
Terriermon, yeah.
Yeah, something about his like less direct approach and the fact that he very often got by in knowledge instead of everything else made him like my favorite out of the main characters. And it also in turn made like the whole like Terriermon and evolution chain like the kind of like creature that I like the most. I was a Digimon guy way before I was a Pokemon guy. That's the thing. I also, after watching the Hosoda movie very young, got like I was like Izzy is the coolest.
Yeah, Izzy is pretty cool.
Yeah. Then I guess when I was like when it came less to like the direct aesthetic comparison and more to like thing, I became a Dragon Ball fan at like age 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
That was the end of me. I have enough Goku notebooks to like flip them over into an anime episode, I think.
Well, remember, I mean, one of the ways that Yamada Naoko started learning how to draw was by drawing lots of Pat Labor and Goku. So you have that in common with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think those were the first few. Later obsessions, I think, have been like funnier. But
No, that's understandable.
yeah, as
yeah.
as a nerdy kid, I like nerdy since very young. I've always gone to like the kids with glasses, as I was like forced to wear extremely thick ones. The ones that sold things like that. Yeah.
Gotcha. The anime that made you realize you wanted to be an artist or animator.
I have committed myself to not giving you a single straight answer. It seems in this case, I'm gonna do it by phases. The first anime that made me think this is so cool and made me sketch something was Dragon Ball,
Makes
obviously.
sense. Mm-hmm.
The first anime that made me think the way this is done specifically is very interesting was the fight in episode 1 in Cowboy Bebop.
Good choice.
Because it was like a skip, right? Like going from like mostly shonen anime and like kind of like worst production stuff like that. And the anime that made me fully engage with like I want to know everything about how this was made was Haruhi Suzumiya, especially the movie. and that kind of did it when it came to like having a fully fledged interest in media.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you literally
And then
you literally answered the next question, which was the anime that made you think about the directorial or production process for the first time. So yeah, like yeah,
I guess they are both, yeah. So that is the difference. And then the fourth last stage is the anime that got me into like wanting to work on anime and not just like look at it was the release of Boruto episode 65.
huh?
At that time, I had just discovered Sakugaboru as a thing.
Understandable. Sakugaboro will do that.
And I was bored in the degree, and I was just looking at it all the time. And then this episode came out, and I looked at the credits, and holy shit, those are foreign names, actually.
Yeah.
Wait, I can do that?
Yeah.
And which put me on like the same track that like everyone that like kind of wants to go in after watching a Sakuga episode is. For a while, I was like obsessed with those like big action spectacle Sakuga festivals. So I think those are like the sort of like four stages when it came
No.
to getting into anime.
No, that makes sense, and I mean, I never would have imagined that a very specific episode of Boruto would have been the thing that did it. Which is also kind of funny because that was the first offer that you ever got.
Yeah, Boruto was like very quickly after that came out, and I may be like committing like a historicity here, but I feel like that episode opened the floodgates for people trying to get in and like realizing the possibility of being a foreign animator. And Boruto itself, like some of its production lines started incorporating a lot of foreign animators with varied results.
Yeah, that is true.
And it's also that just catching wind of that episode made me look into it and post animations with more of an intent, which inevitably kind of puts you in contact with like the same group, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like that was the final nail in the coffin. And then my interest in going in, because I watched that like halfway through college or something like that. My interest in getting into anime proper was like completely like sealed by seeing repeated names that were in Boruto go into other shows, and I was like, okay, now that I can follow this, I want to do this.
Yeah, there is in fact a way forward, as it were.
Yeah, very very strange way forward, but a way forward nonetheless.
All right. The strangest piece of anime merchandise that you have.
Oh boy. I think I don't really do that much merchandise. Most of what I have is like books,
Yeah.
to be fair. I have a plushie of Koppe-sama from Hardcatch Precure that I have never seen again, and I think I own exclusively by sheer miracle.
Because like I can't remember if it was you or somebody else who said it to me, but didn't you say that you had like a Spanish DVD of Brain Powered or something?
I didn't buy the Brain Power. I have some funny DVDs. I do this thing where I go to like secondhand stores, and if I find like a cheap DVD for a very fun or very interesting 2000s anime that I didn't even know was localized, I will just kind of like immediately get it.
No.
I have some funny things in there.
I mean, all the years I've known you, even I didn't know that you had a Heartcatch Precure plushie.
Yeah, I guess I don't. It's behind me right now.
Yeah. You could like send me a picture of it or something, and then I'll put it like on the screen and post. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Watch as how like somebody will say, "Oh, that was from like X production line from X year," and sold
That'd
in like
be ideal. I would love to know personally
the genealogical lineage of your Precure doll. All right.
I'm trying to think if there's anything weirder. Like, yeah, no, it is definitely mostly books.
Gotcha. The historical anime production you wish you could have worked on.
Historical.
Yes.
So I can look at it these two ways, and I gotta ask you, regardless or mindful of my skill.
Why not just go both ways?
I mean, regardless. God. Let's see. There's so much anime. This is such a this is such a difficult question. To be honest, actually, I think it would have been fire to work on Soul Eater.
Oh yeah, that would
In
you
Soul
would have
Eater
been feasting.
or in like on like anything that was under Umakoshi. To be honest, I don't know. I just the children and for the mimes. I'm fine with anything that is like a good production.
Also fair. Also fair.
Not that there aren't anymore. I mean, obviously, like the response would be like, "Oh, I would have loved to be like the Sky Brothers or something," right?
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I feel, I feel like a TV show is something that is a bit more sensical.
No,
Yeah,
that
either
that does,
that
yeah.
or like I was always saying that I wanted when I got into anime, I was always saying that I wanted to work on Precure at some point,
Hmm.
but kind of like the era of Precure I liked was over by the time I got there.
That's fair, yeah.
Uh, so I guess I would have liked to work on like a Nagamine Precure and I would do it if the chance arose, but yeah.
So if you're listening, send Aaron a DM about that Precure offer. Um, let's see. The anime that you feel you should have seen at this point in your life but haven't yet.
Well, there's far too many of those.
Yeah, just like one.
Yeah. Let me think. I'm trying to think of like the ones that like you and my other friends keep like telling me that I should.
I mean, in that case, I could offer one for you.
Yeah, you just throw my sins at me and I
Yeah,
will accept them.
like Kashern. His and her circumstances.
Yeah. I've never seen it in full.
Yeah.
I've
Um.
seen episodes of his and her
Yeah.
secrets.
You sort of understand the circumstances, but not all the circumstances.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
Nadia to some extent, and there's like I haven't seen all of the World Masterpiece Theater shows either,
Yeah.
so there's that.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. The anime where you did a 180-degree turn, as in something that you really, really loved that you then came to thoroughly dislike, or vice versa.
Oh God. I don't know if I've done like a full 180 on it, but my opinion on a little known show called School Days has like become a lot more complex over time.
Mm-hmm.
Happened with actually no, you know what? Fucking fate. It's fate. It's fate. I have a strange relationship with the Fate franchise. If people must know, I didn't like it at first, and now I like willingly chose the offer that let me work on Fate's Strange Fate.
Yeah. Beyond
Um,
economic incentive, or
I mean, yeah, you gotta go. I mean, I wanted a contract, but that was not the only offer I had. I just was
oh
like,
yeah.
dude, Fate has gone the full spectrum between like from something that I didn't like at first in the slightest.
Yeah.
Like I guess at first, actually Fate has both directions because there's like Fate Zero, right?
Yeah.
Which was like the one Fate I liked at first because I was a mask presenting teenage individual. and and I was like, the rest of the friendship's pretty bad though. And now I don't really like Zero that much. Like I watched it again last year or this year. I watched it again this year,
Mm,
and I was very underwhelmed by most things about it.
yeah.
While on the other hand, I have come to appreciate a lot of elements of the originals and even the Dean Stay Night adaptation.
Hmm. I mean, Dean Stay Night was
Uh,
my first fate.
I guess that. I guess that's like a good one.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
that's great. Oh man.
I guess that also goes to some extent to like I hadn't watched it before, but I had like this dislike of Jun Maida's work in general, and like now Canon is like one of my favorite anime.
Mhm.
So there's that the Kyoani one, just in
Yeah.
case.
Yep. However you choose to define it, the anime that you feel is most underappreciated.
Ooh. However, I choose to define it.
Yes. This was inspired by your good anime you may not know list.
Yeah, I see. If it's in terms of like just something that people don't know, but I wish they knew a little more about,
Hmm.
a very easy answer is like Zettai Shonen,
Mm.
uh, which is this like naturalistically written human drama with a hint of like mystery. It has like a bit of that kind of like Konaka vibe where urban legend, the digital age, and like modern living and like just fantasy elements coalesce into a single thing, but without the insane conspiratorial stuff. It's like there's like almost like a pseudo sociological angle to it sometimes. The directing is very comfortably still, but also energetic when it needs to be. The art direction is beautiful, the character designs are nice, and the story tells in two very divided parts. It's just kind of unlike everything you've ever seen. The writing makes communication problems and introverted characters into something that actually factors into how the mystery develops. And yeah, it's it's just really good.
Yeah. That's good.
Just really good. And if you like vibe shows, it works for that as well.
I do like a good
And
vibe.
and when it comes to like underappreciated in the modern era and like a more like historical sense, I feel like people should have like a new meeting, a new encounter with Izaki. I think
Dazaki
it's
Osama.
it's like the yeah, it's like the most obvious thing to say, right? But
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, given how instrumental the guy was to creating the aesthetic of anime as we understand it, I mean, the guy's contributions are so legendary.
like it holds up, right? Like you watch like Onisamae, Rose of Versailles, or like Ashita no Joe, and you like are going to just be met with we haven't made anything new.
Yeah.
like, which is not entirely true, but it's there.
Yeah. Not
And
wrong.
while I'm at it, I want to throw a couple of things that may be interesting because I'm assuming someone who watches you wants to like learn about weird anime generically.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go blame OVAs. They're good.
Oh, the ones that you're like 99% sure Shimbo worked on?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure actually. And update. I don't think. I think it's just someone else. But like the style channels, Shimbo entirely. And until I saw like evidence of opposite, I thought it was like a pseudonym thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, the Blame OVAs 6 episode of short, like 3 to 5 minutes. Absolutely beautiful. Malice Doll. Have you ever wanted to watch a full motion video from like an old Final Fantasy game, except it's like the most fucked up shit ever? That's it.
By Konica.
Yeah. 5-star stories for the mechanical nuts. Gankutsuo for cool people who like theatrical things. I'm just throwing things at you all right now.
That description is great, though. Just for those who may not know, Gankatsuo refers to the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, Gankutsuo, the Count of Monte Cristo. It's like a freeform sci-fi adaptation of the novel, and it goes fucking crazy by Mahiro Maeda. I guess I'm just gonna throw like a last one.
Yeah.
This is just to see if someone has watched it and liked it. This is like a call for help, actually. Urasekai Picnic.
You have, over the course of the past like X number of years, you have tried on multiple occasions to get me to watch Urasekai Picnic.
Yeah.
And one day I will.
Get everyone watch this.
And one day I will.
This is like it's a Takuya Sato series. This is like the most modern thing I have brought up. It's like 2021 for this category anyway. It's a Yuri adaptation. No, not an adaptation. It's a Yuri book inspired by Roadside Picnic, the novel that would become known to most people as the movie and games Stalker. That instead of using the traditional anomalies of the zone of control, is using like internet urban legends that operate in a much more kind of like SCP sort of spectrum. It's a very limited production.
Yeah.
It can't afford all that much, but it has the sauce. I'm just gonna say that it has the sauce.
It goes where it needs to go.
If you are like one of the 3 people that it was made for, when you find it, you're gonna think about it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like you and I with Giant Beasts of Ours.
Yeah. So in the end, like that has aged in a way that this one hasn't. Like, what is like a picnic? I sometimes like go like, oh, that show was fun.
No, yeah.
Which is like more than I can say for most shows that look like it does.
Yeah, that's very true. All right. However you choose to define it, the best anime of the 2020s thus far.
We should have done this interview before City came out.
Yeah. Would you say City then?
I think so. It's either City or Heike Monogatari. I'm pretty sure. There's a lot of amazing things, and I feel like by just looking at like the best, I'm doing some degree of a disservice to it.
Yeah.
So if that's fine, I'm just gonna rattle because like the Review Starlight movie, I feel like I need to mention it.
Yes.
Right, the Review Starlight movie is incredible. Sonny Boy may not be my favorite anime of its year because I'm pretty sure that's the same year that Heike came out.
Same year that Heike came out, yes.
But it is equally deserving of a mention. Sonny Boy is a bit of a miracle. Next year is like a little cooked in comparison. Inuo is like not my favorite thing ever, like in that way, but it is really good and it's like a noteworthy, like a Japanese rock opera. There's a lot of good things. My favorites are definitely like City, Heike, Sonny Boy.
Yeah.
Uh, if it had an ending, I would love to add Heavenly Delusion to that. It is definitely worth checking out for technical quality alone, to be honest.
Yeah. And there's been, to my knowledge, there's been no announcement about a season 2 of that.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And I guess while I'm at it, I'm gonna add like Look Back to the mix. And if you read the article, like the Sakuga blog article that ZNote mentioned, it's not my favorite anime of this time, but Shoshimin is really good, and I really recommend it. For those interested, especially in like intelligent directing
Kanban
and
Mamoru.
writing, it's just very strong, just very strong.
Um, the biggest disappointment you've experienced as an anime fan?
As an anime fan, okay,
Yeah, so not necessarily with the perspective of like Aaron, the artist, but just like you can bring that in
yeah,
if you
yeah,
do
yeah.
want to.
I mean, I'm a Haruhi fan.
Yeah.
That aside, I think it's difficult for me to think about disappointment in that way, just because I see enough of the sausage getting made, I guess.
Yeah.
Where I tend to not hype myself up very much. But there's other kinds of disappointments that can happen. I mean, I was pretty disappointed by the Spice and Wolf remake, but not because I had like super high expectations.
Yes.
It was more of one of those like, oh, of course.
Oh man.
You know what?
Yeah.
The Witch from Mercury
Oh
was again
god.
not the most disappointing because I was like vaguely aware of the production circumstance behind it. But God, I did not enjoy it that much.
No, I
I
didn't
guess this
either.
puts me in a funny position. My girls deserved better.
Yes, they did.
Uh,
They deserved a different show.
yeah.
Yeah. What would current Aaron say to younger Aaron as they're about to take their first steps into professional anime production?
I'm going to avoid making the obvious joke. So I guess to be honest, it's very much like the same things that I would have done. I'm like a little too far into the cycle of work to do this now, but I think a very good advice would have been stop for a moment and just like do some studying. It's fine. You don't need like the credit yet. I think it was right to take it, right? Like it was right to take that One Piece job because it was about the best start I would have had.
Yeah. Based on what you described, it certainly
But
sounded that way.
but at the same time, there's this element of like you don't need to do it right now. I guess
Yeah.
you can get stronger and have a better debut. You don't need to like wait until the perfect moment, but it's there.
Yeah.
I guess for something a little more concrete, it would have been start studying Japanese seriously before you have too much work to like properly divide your time. It's very very specific. One person who may or may not see it is gonna remind me of this.
Yeah, that's somebody I know too.
Yeah,
Um,
I think when it comes to anime, it's just that.
yeah. Your favorite cut that you've worked on?
Hmm. I can't say it out loud here, but I think my favorite in terms of like complexity and spectacle is definitely a Fate one.
Okay. Give us something to look
Uh,
forward to then.
yeah, definitely. And in terms of, I guess there'd be like two of them. One of them would be One Piece 1064, where I was able. That's like the smoothest my work has ever been, basically. At that point, I had kind of like acquired the trust, and I was familiar enough with the visual language of the show, being the penultimate episode that I had like a big part in, that I could just kind of work and get very, very few corrections, and the corrections were mostly just like to add detail, and I could just kind of like study my references and draw with like decent time, but like decent timing. I didn't have to rush anything. And I think the way that showed was it's the best result in terms of the animation, compositing, and everything that's like working together.
Awesome.
It was just like a nice experience. And I guess the other solution would be Dead Dead Demons, Dead Dead Destruction, episode 3,
Yeah.
where I was able to do a whole running sequence. And I'm a very okay. Actually, I'm gonna go back to the previous question. Do basic animation school exercises, Aaron of 2021. You cannot be caught off guard when you have to do a mildly complex run cycle. that also goes to newbies. Some amount of hours into this video, do the basic anime exercises of either the anime books or the survival kit or any animation school that you can get like files from. You don't have to go to the animation school, just do the exercises and like have people help you with feedback. Do walk cycles, do people picking up stuff, do objects interacting, do rotations. If I had done that, my life would have been a lot easier.
Yeah.
But I had to learn on the job, which was like way harsher.
Yeah.
And this the Demon episode is an instance of me learning on the job, which is why I remember it, because I can do running, right? Like I learned to do running beforehand, but
Yeah.
this is a sequence that happens pretty much entirely in shots with realistic eye-level perspectives.
Yeah.
A fish islands that the character has to run across, changing to the perspective, as they go from left to right and the camera pans behind them. So I had to basically just like buckle down and grab a Toshiyuki Inoue book that I managed to like buy at some point. That was made for Maki, and just like read through it, look at all the examples, take some notes, do a couple of tests, and just like start animating the running. And it was a bit crunchy in terms of like time frame, but I managed to get by without any like timing or spacing or pose corrections. Yeah, and that was like that is probably like the most satisfying work I've done, not in terms of like comfortable, but in terms of like feeling like I am learning as I work.
No, and that must have been on some level quite invigorating, I imagine.
Oh yeah, I felt invincible later. Then
Yeah.
I took my next job and I forgot, but but that's just how it is.
No, yeah. And going to the opposite side of the spectrum, the cut that you would most like to go back and work on again or fix.
Okay, so all of them in one way or another.
Understandable.
I think that's just like the universal take.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could go back to One Piece 1017.
Okay.
I'm responding a little with One Piece, but like so much of my like early learning happened through that show.
No, yeah.
The thing with 1017 is that I got a pretty cool part of a scene, but there's many things I did wrong. Like none of them I did like actively wrong, but all of them I did wrong.
Yeah.
So I was not thorough enough with the notation, so the compositing had to figure out a few stuff about special visual effects that I like should have indicated if I wanted it to look better. Because I was not satisfied with the look, but I think it's largely on me. And I should have just made the storyboard mine a little more to make it more spectacular, which is what I think the people right out, like the animator right after me did. I think it was Kazuma actually. I think Kazuma did. I didn't really like improve on the storyboard, and I just kind of did as I was told exactly. So
Yeah.
it resulted pretty bland. Like I looked at the scene before it and the scene after, and I was like, God damn, man.
Oh, yeah. Is that part of the reason why you also said to make sure that you look at the storyboards from before and after your cut?
I mean, not really, because the storyboards I knew perfectly. Like I've been doing that since the start.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's more the execution on the storyboard. Like we all revealed our cards, right? And I had like a worse hand.
Yeah.
Like if people did such a cool job and like we're so excited about it, and I did a bit of like a very baseline thing.
I see. Okay.
So I guess that's the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. The animation job you regret not taking.
To be honest, I haven't been blessed with that many opportunities. I missed the window for saying yes to Mono, which
Oh, yeah, the recent Mono.
yeah. And it's not like Mono is like my ideal anime, but it's an aesthetic that I can really work with. And like, the idea of like exploring cool locations with characters in a more relaxed setting was like really up my alley. Because I mostly end up working in action, right?
Yeah, so the character animation and that particular kind of dynamic acting is something that you don't have nearly so much experience in doing.
Yeah, so I would have loved to like have an excuse to just like fully immerse myself in it for a while. No, to be honest, I have regret because I'm still terrified of however the production is going. Not for any actual factual reasons that I know, just from the trailer. Sekiro.
Yeah.
When I looked at it again and I was like, shit, that's a Kishida design. It's like, I want Kishida to correct me. It's the best.
Oh man. Let's see. The longest session you've had sitting at your computer making Genga.
The government has forbidden me from spreading this information.
No-
Okay, so the longest one, and this was through a series of miscommunications and translator errors, was probably like almost, I want to say like 16 to 18 hours.
oh Jesus
It only
Christ.
happened once. I do not intend for it to happen again.
For the sake of your continued sanity, I certainly hope it doesn't happen
It's
again.
it's it's not the norm, and it somehow resulted in one of my like best like cuts. It just had to do with like the auto translate tool that the PA and I were using like led to a miscommunication where we thought the delivery was at a different day.
Hmm.
So the producer asked us like, "It's almost the date. Where's the cut?" And I was like, "I'm working on it. It's fine. We have time." She was like, "No, we don't." And I'm like, "You said this day." And I sent a screenshot, and she was like, "Oh no."
Oh my god, the actual nightmare Shirobako scenario.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like, and so I just like buckled down. Some people came to like help me from within the studio, and we managed to like do the Genga for all of the cuts, and it
Hmm.
looked surprisingly good considering the situation. And I'm
Hmm.
pretty happy with it.
Alright,
So I think that is like the longest session I've had by far.
well, at the very least, it has a happy ending.
Yeah.
Oh man. I hope you treated yourself to something well after that was over.
I slept. Is what I did. I slept a lot.
The ultimate dream for an animator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in the United States, we have the Mount Rushmore Memorial with the heads of four deceased U.S. presidents on the rock face. So, living or dead, who would be the four faces on your anime staff Mount Rushmore, director or otherwise?
Shit. Wow. Very, very personal, or trying to make an attempt at historicity here.
Go both
You
ways
know
if you
what?
want.
Don't answer. Yeah. I'm gonna put the Zaki in because I've mentioned him enough.
Yeah.
I feel like I should.
Yep.
I'll put Mamoru Oshii in there for no particular reason other than he's like one of the most interesting people
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like just like the most interesting movies. I'm gonna put Canada in there.
Yoshinori Kanada.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And let's see who else. I feel like I'm obligated to put Ano in there. To be honest, I would carve a few more faces into that
Well,
Rushmore.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm also forcing you
yeah,
to really like buckle down and choose
yeah,
four. I'm
yeah.
not considering how much we've talked about his work. I'm actually surprised that you didn't put Ikuhara on there.
I've considered it, but I wanted to have someone because the Zaki is there. Uh,
Yeah, or
even
Rintaro.
though they don't, yeah, even though they don't operate the same way. That's the thing. Like, I wanted to have representation from different things. I could feel like several of these with just directors that I think are very important.
That's true. Yeah.
I could put Rintaro. I could put, even if it's like less of a like turning point, I could put Shimbo in there. I could put
Hmm.
Ano in there. Yeah, Ano, I ruined my life. Like I've somehow managed to like skip Ava in the like things that made you go into anime thing, but it's definitely like a stepping stone between all of them.
Yeah. I mean, Ano is the master of simultaneously ruining and saving everybody's lives. So,
Yeah. So yeah, there's like a lot. There's like too many people.
yeah. Living or dead, if you could have an animation lesson with anyone, who would it be with, and what specifically would you want to learn from them?
Hmm. This is gonna be the most like not me answer. Actually, is it? I feel like one of the best animation teachers ever has to be like Inoue, probably.
Hmm.
As for the topic of the lesson, to be honest, I think I could learn about literally everything from him. So
Yeah.
that's like this. I was thinking about like some notes I saw from Miyazaki way back when about like a run cycle where he was like trying to reduce the amount of drawings that he used for it while still looking convincing and like the intricacies of how he like was thinking about that. So from when I was gonna bring him up, which
Mm.
is why I say it was gonna be like the least me thing ever.
Yeah.
And then I chose not to. Either that or you know what? I think Kameda maybe. I don't mention him enough, but like Kameda, not to be confused with Canada,
Yeah.
Yoshimichi Kameda, is like one of my all-time favorites ever since I started being aware of animators. And I would love to learn about spacing from him. specifically out of the principles of animation, the way he jumps from pose to pose
Mm-hmm.
manages to feel a lot more realistic than other Canada School animators while simultaneously keeping the energy. It's even more raw than a lot of them
Mm-hmm.
in the way it moves.
You know, there's one other name that I'm surprised that neither one of us has said during the course of all this, and that's Morimoto.
Yeah, I guess. Morimoto, God, there's so many people.
Yeah.
Morimoto is like one of the coolest animators ever and one of the coolest directors ever.
Yeah. Oh.
Dimension Bomb is like a must-see thing, and it's always available on YouTube one way
I,
or another.
I mean, truthfully, if it was not for Daikon 4, I would probably say that Dimension Bomb is my favorite anime short ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy, and he's kind of like the way he incorporates Western influences. Like he very clearly likes Jamie Hewlett or Gorilla's Flame, right? Like,
Yeah.
and adds that like graphic edge to anime, despite having come from like a background full of like the realists. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. um, a WebGen animator that you admire and whose work everyone should know.
Oh boy. So here we run into the small problem of WebGen being like a very challenged
Yeah.
category in terms of like its limits.
It's part of the
Or
reason
its,
why I had the question phrased this way.
yeah, of its contours. So I'm gonna go with like if I want to think about traditional WebGen, despite actually having a lot of aesthetic disagreements with him, I cannot deny the impact that Shingo Yamashita's work has had on me in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like not so much the way I draw, not at all, to be honest, but more the just like making me look at animation, which I think is still very important.
Mm-hmm.
So that one he gets, and leaving the more like traditional. I also really like Yoshihara. Actually, this is a problem. Leaving that more like traditional like WebGen stuff.
Yeah.
Because Ryotimo is also really good. I'm gonna keep doing this. Hakuyogo is really good. Leaving the traditional WebGen stuff, I think out of the modern people, and this is like a very generic. Actually, I think Mecha Auratos is like out of the modern ones, one that like always surprises me. Out of the like foreign animator names that keep popping up in production, like you have Verkreek, which is monster good, and you have Mecha, who like I feel like has earned less of a sort of like name in terms of the community. But every time I see something that he makes, I'm like, holy shit, this is really good. Like, very strong sense of volume, very strong sense of appeal. He makes like some of my favorite like down to earth character drawings at the moment.
Good to know. And don't be
And
surprised, by the way, if at some point I say, "Hey, can you send me like the links for all these people?" Just because you're throwing out so many good names.
yeah, it's there's a
Yeah.
lot of people.
No. Yeah.
But yeah, Mecha Auratos is the this person specifically, and I guess that's the one I'm bringing up.
Yeah.
I don't modern ones. And out of the original WebGen, it's just kind of like everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Ryochimo, I haven't talked about much, but has some of my favorite cuts. It's great.
Mm-hmm. The anime resource that more anime fans should be aware exists.
Anime making resource or
Whether in terms of either learning about anime or referencing anime or like a database of some kind, like, yeah.
yeah. Okay, I spent way too much time in Sakuraboru, so there's that obviously.
Yeah.
I think the keyframe staff database is really good. And for people looking about like into learning about anime, I always bring up the Anime Machine, which can be a bit of a tough read, but it's a really good book.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it got revised. Like I've read an older version, but I think it got revised, or there's like a sequel to it,
Awesome.
like a follow up book that I haven't read.
Mm,
The Anime Machine is good. Those are like the main things. Sete Dreams to check the signs, but all of these things, you'll find them.
yeah.
If you're interested, they will show up.
Yep. And we sort of answered, there's only two left. We sort of answered this one a little bit earlier, but the simplest thing that global anime fans can do to support the industry.
Unfortunately, not much.
Yeah.
At risk of getting inside a list, do not pay for Crunchyroll.
Yep.
Beep this if legal consequences take
Yeah.
place. I don't think they would.
No.
Not like I'm offering an alternative or anything.
No.
And um, I think information is a weapon in this case. if you have complaints, they're usually not about animators. They're usually about something bigger. It's just being informed, remaining aware that people are making stuff, and not mistaking what things to support and what things to like, kind of like decry, is a good start. I think everyone is, even if it's like a purely like human like social thing. I think everyone is happy if they get recognized for their work.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean,
Especially if it's for like the right work and not a general thing, right? Like sometimes you like work on a. I did second key animation and a single cut on this episode, and someone will be like, "Thanks, your work was great," right? It's like
no, but
you
like
don't
at
know
the
what I
same,
just said.
yeah,
But at the same time, it's like I know it's people like being nice, right, and trying to be like involved, so
no,
that's
yeah,
good. And yeah, learning about the way the anime industry works, learning a bit about its history, being more demanding about the things you watch. Like, actually, you know what is a way of supporting this? This is coming to me as I speak, hence the
no, by all
auto
means.
mode sort of speech. It's pick the things that you watch. That may sound silly, but this is not only an anime thing. This helps every artist and creative ever. Do not watch what a video on demand platform gives you. Look for things to watch that you want to watch.
Right,
Again, be
absolutely.
curious, investigate. You know, don't go to the 5 recommendations that pop up and choose one and then form an opinion on a medium or a season or an artist based off of that, but instead like build your own relationship with it and don't let them be intermediaries.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, because they have an
I
agenda
think
to
I
push.
think because you know being allowed to be like fed things constantly means that that is conditioning what gets made because they're trying to create an audience in the same way that you're watching things, right?
Right.
They depend on an audience, but they can condition the audience, and it limits you. It limits what you can watch. It limits what you can enjoy. There's so many things that you could be watching, right?
Mm.
That are up your alley, like niche things that you didn't know you were so interested in, and finding those and advocating for them, and kind of creating a landscape of interest and community and communication is really what leads to the creation of better things and what leads to move the sort of like tide of anime discourse and of anime work. It's not like immediate actionable practical economic measures, but we are behind so many layers of intermediaries that it's difficult to think about it that way. So
Mm-hmm.
if you ever go to Comic-It and you see an animator you like selling a book, you can always, drop them a few dollars.
Yeah.
Uh, paying animators directly does not fix any systemic issue,
Yeah.
which is why one can take issue with that, and I would agree. Like it's like doing an individual effort, like putting a duct tape on a giant leak, but it is still a welcome thing on an individual sense, and information is power when it comes to the larger picture.
Yes, it is. And last but not least, is there anything left that you would like to say to anyone that might be listening?
Uh, I hope you really like the sound of at least one of our voices. Because you've been here for a while, buddy.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I know I know how absolutely insanely busy you can sometimes get. I mean, there are sometimes entire like weeks of time where I don't hear from you, and I know it's because you're knee deep in the midst of animation hell. The fact that you were able to take a couple of hours out of your life to do this is I don't know how to thank you enough for that.
I appreciate this very charitable look on my lack of time management skills. Yeah, it was a pleasure being here.
All right. In the meantime, I will put any relevant social media links that Aaron wants me to publish down in the video's description. So once again, Aaron, thank you very much for joining me, and to everyone who listened. I hope that you found some of what he said worthwhile and insightful, because I'll tell you this much. I've been talking to Aaron for 4 years now, and I'm still learning new things every time I talk with him.
Thanks a lot. It's been great. And yeah, if people have questions, they can like leave them there, and maybe I can like make a star appearance at some point and just like answer something,
That's
like in
fantastic.
the
Yeah.
comments or whatever. Yeah.
All right. In that case, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful night. This is ZNote of ZNoteTaku. Happy viewing, everyone.